What's going on? 5:59, just about 6 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. The Chiefs planning to use their franchise tag on cornerback L'Jarius Sneed per Jeremy Fowler yesterday, and the plan is to look to trade him should the two sides not get a long-term deal done. There is precedent with this on the Chiefs side. The last time they did this was in 2019 when they franchise tagged the defensive end Dee Ford, then flipped him to San Francisco for a second-round pick. Baltimore seems less likely to move on their franchise tag target, as Eric DeCosta spoke to the media yesterday, simply stating that they would tag Justin Madubuike if a long-term deal could not be reached by the deadline Tuesday. Falcons releasing former tight end and Titans tight end Jonnu Smith. Smith caught 50 passes for 532 yards and 3 touchdowns last season. The move frees up about $6.5 million in cap space for the Falcons while carrying $2.5 million in dead cap into 2024. In college basketball, number 7 Kansas falls at home to BYU 76-68. Vanderbilt takes down Arkansas 85-82. And number 16 Kentucky escapes Mississippi State 91-89. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Kicking off your Wednesday morning right now on 104.5 The Zone. Welcome in to Ramon, Kayla, and Will, RKW. It's brewed up by 8th & Roast, the best coffee in Nashville, cultivated in community by the cup. You can find your favorite retail bag of 8th & Roast coffee as well in every local Kroger and Whole Foods. The Tennessee Titans take a clear stance at the NFL Combine on the left tackle versus wide receiver discussion. Rand Carthon and Bryan Callahan scout current Titans playmakers as we get some words and updates on wide receiver Treylon Burks. And Rhett Bryan at 9 o'clock this morning of Titans Radio joins us for over a half hour with Inky Johnson, wrapping up the show on midweek motivation. From Indianapolis, he is Ramon Foster. Here in the Music City, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh. I'm Will Bowling. It is Tuesday, February the 28th. Good morning, everyone. How are we?
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
It is Wednesday, February the 28th.
Hey, it's the off season.
6:02 a.m.
Every day seems like it's a day ahead or a day behind. You never know, right?
I feel like I'm missing out on a movie or show or something like that with Bert and Will saying it's Wednesday, my dudes. By the way, Bert, why are you talking in the 6 o'clock hour, man? That ain't like you. Come on, man. What's the coffee you had?
Well, it's the
today?
first mistake I've made in the history of this show, so he had to correct the one mistake I've ever made.
And that's going to get clipped, too.
Thank you.
I'm always awake, Ramon. It's just 6 o'clock. This is when the busy bees do their busying. You know what I mean? I got stuff to do back here.
All right. That's cool. That's
But
right.
you hit me with that looking like Zordon on Zone TV. Look at that. If we was going to stretch anybody's melon out, though, it should be yours. You got the best melon in the group.
I feel like I'm like a kid right now of Ramones. Like it's two kids on the side screens here.
Yeah. Hey, it's like that sometimes.
We're foster
man.
children.
Yes.
Foster children.
Yes.
That's exactly what we
Which was
got
almost the
going
name of this
on.
show. at one
Right.
point.
Well, now that's almost too conceited right there. I wouldn't dare
Speak
want
for
to just
yourself.
own a show like that, like foster kids. Like, nah.
Foster kids.
We're more like, I always try to tell us we're a gang anyway. You know what I'm saying? Just people that comes into our turf.
Absolutely.
Is that cool, job?
I'm down, man.
I saw that. I saw the competition as far as like ratings nationally, and I wanted to go kick their table over. But you know what I'm saying? I don't know if Curb know where the precinct is to get me out of jail, so I'll just keep the peace.
I know. I was like,
we
I
can hear him,
feel
don't
like
worry.
Kirby could find something.
Yeah.
He'd probably distract the jail guard, right? So you could
Yeah,
just bust out.
Yeah.
I imagine Kirby knows more than his fair share of county sheriffs around the United States. I think that's a safe bet.
He just spoke about the sheriffs in Nashville, as well as fire department, sheriff department, and police department. We had a conversation about that this morning already. So, yeah, you're 100% correct, Will.
Perfect.
100% correct.
How was the night at Indy?
Night in Indy was good, man. We went to St. Elmo's. Coach Mack was in his zone, y'all. He was. If y'all ever want to see somebody just be in their world, see Coach Mack in Indianapolis. Okay, I've been calling him Macanapolis.
I love that.
Macanapolis is the standard now. Okay, when he walks here, and he's not lying about the stuff that he talk about. He walked down the street, Coach Mack. He don't even say nothing to people. You know how some people want you to see them? Coach Mack's just walking, but Coach Mack also has one of those known identities, okay? All black clothes, okay? Yeah. Coach Mack's not a short guy, okay? Around me, he's regular height, but other folks, he's not a short guy. And then, of course, you got the hair. And when you see the hair, okay, you're like, Coach Mack, that's all you hear, man. I'm talking about from people you can tell has been around the league with him to coaches that came under him to even some of the young guys that's in the industry too. They know Coach Mack. And it's fascinating to see. One dude that walked up on him, he knew him, looked like he was growing his hair out. The issue was he has the same color hair as Coach Mack. Okay, and because of that, he walks up and, try to swoop his hair back and stuff like Coach Mack, just letting him know, like, hey, Mack, look at my locks too, okay? It was quite fascinating to say the least, but it was cool being in Indy yesterday. It was like the prelims, in the world of track. It was the prelims yesterday.
Did you see anyone at St. Elmo's?
St. Elmo's? No, not really. Not that anybody that was super noticeable.
Okay.
There was a lot of people in there. Some of the Titan staff was in there. Last night, not coaches, but just some of the staff was there. Face value, there's so many people that's in this business, I couldn't tell you who was who sometimes. But this morning, saw Peter Schrager, Tom Pelissero was, I continue to say too, I like Pelissero. He's a cool-looking dude, but he's also a short little guy too.
He is.
Him and Rhett.
And Schefter. Yeah, and Schefter.
Well, see,
I hadn't seen. Yeah, go ahead.
No, Ramon, I want to hear what you got to say, but I got to let you know I got a little beef with Mac, and that's the wrong dude to have beef with. But so the combine's coming up, man. I told you. I've been telling him. I've been getting ready. I've been trying to work out for the Cats. I've been trying to find a spot on the arena team, and I was asking Mac, if I was on the defensive side, what would be the best position for me? I think I would be a good flat defender. Not a lot of ground to cover. I could come down and make a tackle. And Coach Mac said, I think you'd be a better fat defender, and just left. Man, I can't believe he'd say something like that to me. Can't believe he'd hit me with a swift Mario uppercut like that this early in the morning.
Damn, Mac.
I retired right then and there, Mon. I can't be a fullback. I went all the way back home with my own ball.
Man, Bert. I never deny you. A Curb's dying laughing right now.
At least I got Kirby.
Fat defender. Wow.
Bad defender. You know what we call that in the old NFL, Bert?
What's that?
A nose tackle. That's all. You know what I'm saying?
I am a space eater. I eat just about anything, space or whatever.
That's great.
Your old teammate Big Dan McCullers will certainly affectionately be known as a fat defender.
Fat defender, man.
See, Bert, you tried to outshoot your coverage, man. The best thing about being a pro is knowing your damn role, okay? Like me, I'm an interior blocker. You don't want to see me in space like that. The fact that you tried to tell Coach Mack, who's been in the NFL for 39 years, that you, could cover the flats. That requires you moving. Okay? That requires you
Look, I didn't try to get run over twice. Ramon's driving the bus now. He backed up, ran right over me, man.
How about his belly rolls that he's done? Is that moving?
I had to reverse that bus real quick, Bert. My bad.
My back hurts, man. Everybody running me over this morning.
I'm just letting you know, okay? As we joke on my 5-2 slow, you be right there with me is all I'm telling you. So you go interior defensive line, Bert. How about that?
That's fine with me.
I can get you a spot on the dance team, though.
I'm down with that, too.
Okay.
I was an all-pro back spot back in high school.
Back spot. See, I got a whole lot of questions that's not fit for radio.
I'm learning. I know where you're going with that.
A lot of follow-ups.
Please, Will, you keep it clean so we can keep my job, okay?
Yeah, I'm the one that's always got to stay above board here because if I go down below the depths, then everybody does.
Then we're sinking fast.
615-737-1045 is our number. Coming up this morning, lots of discussion on the rounds the Titans made at the NFL Combine yesterday, which was Tuesday. And today is Wednesday, to remind myself and us all. We're going to talk about the wide receiver versus left tackle debate and what Bryan Callahan said at the podium and then what he followed up on the Buck Rising show yesterday here on the station about wanting a playmaker and wanting a player on the perimeter who can put the ball in the paint. We'll do that coming up in just about 10 minutes. If the Titans need playmakers, where do current players fit into that discussion? Ren Carthon also commented on Treylon Burks, updated his status on where and with whom he is working out this offseason, which was particularly interesting. We'll do that coming up at 7:20 this morning. At 8:20, more discussion on wide receiver and left tackle. Your thoughts, your phone calls at 615-737-1045. We'll take a look at the Will Levis part of that equation. And Rhett Bryan at Titans Radio, who is here for his normal time at 9 and at 9:20. So you can hear Rhett's thoughts from Indy. And you can ask Rhett a question as well about NFL Combine storylines between 9 and 9:40 this morning. And then, of course, Inky Johnson finishes off our Wednesday shows as always. Today at the NFL Combine, this is the first day where every position will be present and accounted for. So defensive linemen and linebackers are going through ortho exam, media interviews, NFLPA meeting, and team interviews. Essentially, you have every position group meeting with teams today. Defensive backs and tight ends on general medical exams, team interviews, pre-ordered studies. You've got an NFLPA meeting, team interviews, and pre-exams as well for running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers. And then the first day for the big guys and the little guys. I love that the offensive linemen and the kickers are on the same schedule at the NFL Combine. But the guys that weigh 350 pounds and 150 pounds today are in registration, orientation, and team interviews. So there you go.
Should be fun.
Yeah.
Ramon, what are you doing today? Anything
is.
with interviews? Any kind of cool interviews you're doing?
Nothing too crazy today because the players are doing their own medical stuff and stuff like that. Titans Radio's got Charles Davis coming by today, having a conversation with him and a couple other folks too. And as much as this is where you make those connections at as far as the people you see in the industry and whatnot. So there will be – I ran across Aditi yesterday. I ran across Ryan yesterday. Ran across a few people in this workspace. It's like, okay, yeah, we're very familiar. My old team is here, of course, with the media folks. I know with them. So, yeah, a bunch of that intermingling is going on. But you can tell it's a big-time frat house, sorority house type of vibe here. It's real cool to watch it. But, of course, everybody got their own thing. Saw Teron Davenport. He was here. Buck ran into him. Greg Cosell's here. A lot of guys are here. And coming down the elevator this morning, speaking of the medicals and weigh-ins, saw the Titans staff.
Okay.
They were downstairs gearing up, getting ready to go over. One of their team doctors was like, yeah, medical day today. I was like, oh, long day today, you mean. So, yeah, it's a lot of that today, a lot of official stuff.
615-737-1045 and streaming live on 1045 The Zone TV. Coming up next, what Bryan Callahan said that I think was the most interesting thing that either he or Ren Carthon said yesterday, and it happened on our station. You'll hear it next.
Well, this is the time of year to enjoy life. Stop letting that pain in your joints keep you from what you want to do this spring and summer. Call QC Kinetics now. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. And this isn't just short-term pain relief. I'm talking about lasting joint pain relief, no surgery, no drugs, no downtime, and that is good news. In fact, QC Kinetics is literally transforming lives. Their advanced treatments actually harness your own body's ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. So, pro athletes have been doing this for decades, but now this life-changing treatment is also available for you. So you can walk and run, climb stairs, play golf, move again, pain-free. QC Kinetics has tens and thousands of satisfied patients who have reclaimed their mobility. Take action now and live your best life this spring and summer. And it is also a great use of your tax refund check. So call QC Kinetics for a free consultation at 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024.
It's a Wednesday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, RKW. We are brewed up by 8th and Rose, 615-737-1045, and on Twitter at Ramon, Kayla, Will. The question we ask there on X, what is more likely at pick number 7 for the Titans? And the early risers have voted so far to say 76% left tackle. Guys, yesterday, the Titans brass made it clear that they value playmakers and they value pass catchers. And I think what Bryan Callahan said on the Buck Rising show is the most interesting thing to come out of the Titans car wash at the Combine yesterday. This was the head coach on his desire for playmakers this offseason.
You know, one of the things I've always said when asked about this debate is I had landed at some point in my career, usually in Denver is usually what I liken back to when we had Demaryius Thomas, Wes Welker, Julius Thomas, and Emmanuel Sanders. Obviously, we had a great quarterback that was at the end of his career. But those guys in one-on-one situations could win when you needed them to win. In a tight moment at the end of a game, all those things. And so that's always resonated with me. And when we had a chance to pick a player like Jamar, I always just thought back to what that offense looked like, and that was sort of the vision of what we were trying to look like in Cincinnati with an elite quarterback, elite processor, to find guys that could go in and separate. And the debate was always, well, you got to protect the quarterback, obviously, or you can't throw the ball. And we didn't necessarily believe that. We felt like if you got great players on the perimeter, they can go win versus press coverage, and all the teams that are trying to condense everything and rush the passer, if you can win quick, you can throw quick. So that was our philosophy in that moment. Obviously, Jamar Chase coming out, premier player. There was no doubt that he was going to be an all-pro player. There was no doubt that Penei Sewell was going to be an all-pro style tackle. There was no question on either one of those players, right. Their talent level and how they would fit in the NFL. I think that's unique. I don't know that you're ever going to get in a spot where both of those guys
different year
are that caliber of player where there's going to be one that's going to be better than the other, and that sort of makes a decision for you at the end of the day. But I've always felt like today's offenses, I think you still have to protect the quarterback, but to score points, you got to have guys that can score points. And I've always felt that. I've always believed that. That doesn't mean that we're just going to automatically take a receiver.
You're giving people chest tightness,
yeah,
Bryan.
No, that doesn't. I don't mean to say that. I'm just philosophically, I've always felt like the more talented receivers you have, the better chance you have to score points. But that being said, we are in year one here versus year 3. We were in Cincinnati. We had a young Joe Burrow already played a year, and we were trying to give him as many weapons as we could. So I think the situations, while the position comparison is similar, I think the situations ultimately are pretty different. So how that shakes out, we'll see. But there's good receivers and good tackles that'll be available at our pick.
That's Titans head coach Bryan Callahan sitting down with Buck Rising yesterday. There's a lot of good info there. What stands out the most?
For me, man, I think is the latter part of what he said as far as the Joe Burrow side of it, because you want to somewhat, compare age to age when it comes down to this type of stuff. He said, they were in year 1, they're in year 1 here versus year 3 with Joe Burrow in that situation right there. They were afforded to be able to make those moves because they saw exactly what they had out of Joe Burrow. So of course Jamar Chase makes sense to be able to make a big time decision like that. And the other side of it too is just the reality of it. Like you said, I always tell people when these coaches talk, I think a lot of people want them to give them direct answers. And you're not going to get direct answers ever from coaches. It's just not their DNA. I hate coaches sometimes because they lie to you on the smallest, little simplest things like, Coach, is he good or not? No, he's okay. No, tell me if this guy is good or not. Well, he's fine. He does a serviceable job. Coach, is he good or not? And I think that's what he's doing in this situation right here, because if you compare the two conversations that he just had was year 3 versus year 1 here, as far as the Titans versus the Bengals are, as far as building a team. And then the other side of it, too, when you look at a guy or look at him and the decisions that they made in Denver with Peyton, that team was solid. Clearly so, because they went on to win a Super Bowl. And Peyton is a guy that needed and demanded weapons. So they had to go get him weapons as far as Denver was concerned. So you're looking at two separate situations as far as where the Titans are versus where Denver was versus where Cincinnati is also. That to me is why I was just like, okay, I heard you talking about wide receiver versus offensive lineman and you want pass catchers and stuff like that, but this team isn't in that spot. Me personally, I think they sent us on a wild goose chase when it comes down to having a conversation about the left tackle position or wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, if you took Rand Carthon and what he said yesterday, and especially what Bryan Callahan said today in the big scrum, in the side scrum, I think it was easy for you to come to the conclusion, oh my gosh, are they really possibly really seriously thinking about taking a wide receiver at 7, right? Whether it be a Dunze or Malik Neighbors that are possibly there. And for a second, I was kind of tricked, thinking, okay, this is definitely a possibility. And it still is, right? That is a reality that it could happen that way. I think it was good, though, that Bryan Callahan got out there and said, hey, look, this is my philosophy in terms of how an offense is going to be built. That doesn't mean that he's going to take that wide receiver at number 7. Look, they could have a wide receiver that they know they can get in the second round, and they can still be able to do something with him. And he made it clear, too, not a lot of guys are Jamar Chase. And that was almost very apparent that maybe even not anybody in the first round that he sees right now is Jamar Chase-like. To that, at least, strength of what he has overall as a wide receiver. So I took from it, they want to kind of get out there that the offense is important and playmakers are important. They want to score points. But I don't think that necessarily means that they're going to veer away from the tackle at number 7 if the tackle is there. And remember, Bryan Callahan said this yesterday, too. He took a lot of time in Cincinnati. He was in charge of kind of going through, draft picks and scouting a lot of these guys. That was part of his role as well in Cincinnati. So he's very close to the vest when it comes to this process. So I'm kind of excited to see what Rand and him come up with. I think they'll make the best decision, though, for the team.
The comparison to Denver for perspective and context, in 2015, when the Broncos won the Super Bowl over the Carolina Panthers in that 2015 season, in February of 2016, Demaryius Thomas had over 1,300 yards and Emmanuel Sanders had just over 1,100. So when Bryan says that with Buck, as he learned a lot of lessons in Denver, elite athletes with an elite processor of information, that was the result, right? A 1,300-yard receiver, another one just over 1,100 yards. They had two running backs that were right at 800 and 700 yards, respectively, which also goes along with another thing that Bryan Callahan and Rand Carthon and Brian Rand said yesterday, that you can have 3 running backs do the job of one, and the division of labor can get you to the same point at that position than just having one guy. I thought this was interesting, though, from the podium about Bryan Callahan being asked, would you take a lineman later in the draft and trust your staff to develop them?
I'll say this: you can never replace elite talent. You can coach guys. Coaching makes an impact. It matters. But ultimately, the better players you have, the better coach you are. And so I will never pass up on elite talent just because I think we have a great coach. Great coaches with elite talent is special, and so we're trying to get to that point. But I will say there is times when you can take players, though, as in roles that maybe not necessarily at the top of the draft or for top dollar in free agency, but where you can develop players quickly and they can contribute for you. Because as we all know, you're going to have multiple sets of players playing up front. Very rarely do you stay with the same 5 for the course of a season. So that development and that depth is always going to be really important. And there's nobody better at developing it than him.
And him being Bill Callahan, his dad, who he was asked about in that question. When Bryan Callahan says things like, when all things are equal, guys that can score touchdowns tend to make more of an impact. Do we believe him enough to think that that is now the Titans' draft philosophy, specifically in the first round?
I think there is some truth in that. I do. I absolutely think there's a lot of truth in that, too. With the idea of this, if the way offenses are run, and Cincinnati did this a good bit also, is they'll get the ball out of Joe Burrow's hand or Jake Browning's hand towards the latter part of the season quick. And you know what they do? They throw that flat screen to the sideline and put the ball in the playmaker's hand. I think there's a lot of value in that. I think having a guy like Jamar Chase or T. Higgins or anybody else that they had, heck, Joe Mixon, for that point too, is the availability that he had in their offense and the capable stuff, the stuff that he was capable of doing with the ball in his hand. You can hide bad protection. That's where, I always try to have that conversation with people that, look, sacks don't always just fall on the O-line. That is also why receivers getting open in their routes. There's the tight ends that are part of it, and also quarterbacks, if they choose to hold on to the ball and pat it 15 times, like, you got to get rid of the ball too. I do believe you can hide protections as far as getting the ball out. Today's offenses are get the ball in the playmaker's hand. So if he truly does believe that, and let's say, and we talked about this a little bit as far as the draft order goes. Let's say you have the Patriots decide they want to go protection. And then you also have the rumblings that the Chargers may be into a tackle also. And your two guys, Alt and Fashanu, are gone. I can live in the world where you go wide receiver, or I've seen a lot of people bring this up too. It's in our chat as it stands right now too. The conversation of the tight end from Georgia, right? Brock Bowers. You have him come up. So I believe that world. I just don't know if this team is willing to start at that position and continue to chase it for years when you think you're trying to find out what Will Levis is all about.
Yeah, and there is a possibility that can happen. And Ramon, what you just said about the situation of how it could end up for them with two of those tackles gone, yeah, I could definitely see them possibly taking the best wide receiver for their fit. And I think that's the biggest thing about this draft. They have made it clear they want playmakers for Will Levis because that's going to make Will Levis better. And, the offensive line is priority. That's why they've got Bill Callahan here, because he's not only going to develop the guys that are here, but whoever they do get in the draft, whether that be in the first round or the second round or whatever they do with that, they're going to be able to get those guys ready. They feel confident in that. But I think it's really just the best fit for them that comes at 7. And Rand said yesterday, too, he's not opposed to possibly trading down. Do I think that's what they're going to do necessarily? No. But I think if Fashanu and Alt are there, I still think they're going to take one of those guys because I think it's really just naive for anybody to think that for the past 2 years, this offensive line has been absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. Patchwork, inconsistent. And to think that is just, going to get fixed because you have Bill Callahan here and you don't get the talent to fix it, I think that's just naive to think. So
out of first-round tight ends, Ramon Foster, to your point about Brock Bowers, I saw this tweet yesterday from Jason_OTC of overthecap.com. First-round tight end rookie outcome since 2011. Kyle Pitts is still active on his deal, so is Dalton Kincaid because they were just picked. Other than that, TJ Hawkinson, traded. Eric Ebron, contract terminated. O.J. Howard, contract expired. Noah Fant, traded. Tyler Eifert, expired. Evan Ingram, expired. Hayden Hurst, traded. David Njoku, extended. I am not a fan of a first-round tight end. Unless you are Rob Gronkowski, and you can guarantee me that you are Rob Gronkowski. I know the Lions' idea of draft the best player, not the highest value position, is in vogue. And in a lot of ways, I think that's a very smart way of life in the NFL. But not at the tight end position and not with Chikakonkwo already on this team, for me personally.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing a lot of those comments, too.
And, of course, the news yesterday of Jonnu Smith being released, that always brings back visits of old good times, right?
Sure does.
There's something to explore there. It's fascinating when we talk about this. I sent some stuff to you guys this morning, just a quick search of, O-tackle versus wide receiver. And there's one team that recently went through this. It was the Dallas Cowboys. 2022 offseason, they had the conversation, the exact same one we're having right now. Do you end up getting a left tackle or do you end up getting a wide receiver? The results of that was they ended up taking the first-round pick, Tyler Smith out of Tulsa at pick number 24. He was a left tackle also, college left tackle. He currently, I'm going to say this slow with a little side eye to the people in the back, he's currently playing left guard. Just going to stop and let that breathe.
Let that one breathe just for a second. Yep.
Drafted as a left tackle, and he's now playing left guard. So what they ended up doing was this with that draft class in 2022. And I know a lot of people probably don't like the Cowboys. Hey, this is the same model that you're living by currently, okay? They ended up taking the left tackle, put him at left guard because they needed offensive line play, the same as this team does too. Second round, they went DN, and also third round, they ended up going wide receiver. What they also did was this. Again, this isn't just a one-way streak when it comes down to building a team. There's a draft, there's free agency, and there's also camp signings and stuff like that. They ended up signing, also re-signing, franchise tagging Dalton Schultz. Remember that year? And they also signed Noah Brown to a wide receiver extension too. These are the moves that they made in this free agency era of trying to figure out if they're going to sign draft a tackle or wide receiver. And that's a team that you can say they told us they needed both, and they still chose the offensive line. Mm-hmm. I think that's where you have to become more real in the process of what winning is in this league and how sustainable it is too. You also now have the Dallas Cowboys in a situation where they're stable up front, even with Tyron Smith being on the outside looking in as the free agent, that they can just pick up and go. Even Jerry Jones this offseason said we're going all in, and I think that's mostly because they established their offensive line. They got a quarterback they believe in, same as the Titans, and they're in a position to continue to roll and win. With the guy also and Tyler Smith, who's played well. He's graded out in the green as far as PFF is concerned with a 72.9, only giving up 1 sack. And as far as risk versus reward, one doesn't catch his touchdowns for you, but he stabilizes your quarterback as far as protection and the ability of the other playmakers, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, to make plays for that team to keep them, as I always say, knocking at the door of competing for a championship. Say what you want to about Dallas. They won the NFC East last year. They helped keep Dak clean. They also had a couple of running backs that played well, and they continually knock at the door of a Super Bowl. Whether they get there or not, that's on them. But they went offensive line instead of wide receiver in this same conversation that we're having right now. And I know they weren't picking top 10. They were picking in the 20s.
Yeah, right. 615-737-1045 is our number. Next, Rand Carthon mentions his take on mixing and matching left tackle and wide receiver, plus what he said about potentially trading out of the number 7 overall pick. We'll hear from the GM next.
It was fine. It's Ramon Foster for Genesis Diamond, man. I'm going to be real with y'all, man. This next event this weekend has me excited. It's their huge Rolex event, okay? And I'll tell you this, too. It's used Rolexes. They're also the same value they somewhat appreciate. So don't worry about, somebody else had it on their wrist. No, this isn't that type of game. This device right here, this piece of jewelry, it appreciates, okay? And it's your chance to get that rare, hard-to-find luxury timepiece. The event will be this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Genesis, and they're hosting an epic pre-owned luxury Rolex event featuring stunning new selection of hard-to-find Rolex models. They'll have all the models that people wait years for. These are carefully chosen timepieces also in pristine condition. During this event, you can take advantage of the special pricing and zero-interest financing. And listen to this. With the purchase of any luxury pre-owned Rolex at this event, Genesis will give Rolex buyers are on site, offering top dollar for your Rolex. So you can buy, sell, or trade. So go see the largest selection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes in the state and take advantage of special financing. And get a pair of 2-carat lab-grown diamond stud earrings for free. Start Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Only at Genesis Diamond, home for luxury pre-owned Rolexes. They're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Wednesday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, RKW, and we are brewed by 8th and Roast. Streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch.
Twitch, please.
I'm looking at an empty chair in Indianapolis right now.
Oh,
As we would say in the musical Les Mis, these are empty chairs at empty tables. And so Robert Walsh
Oh, yeah,
with
there is an empty
a
chair.
big-time opportunity to just steal the Twitch please right there.
Didn't even have to cut his mic off.
That's right. Here we go. Ramon Foster making his way. He's going to grace us with his presence again. You just missed an opportunity to say Twitch please, and you got to be present to win, big guy.
Nathaniel!
I ain't even got nothing to say now because that's on
right.
me.
Nothing you
Over
can't
here.
say.
Yeah, there's nothing I can say about that one.
We'll get you an update on Tennessee-Auburn tonight and the status of an Auburn star, according to Bruce Pearl yesterday, who may or may not play tonight in Knoxville. That's coming up in 15 minutes. But Rand Carthon yesterday, guys, weighed in on the left tackle versus wide receiver debate himself, talked about mixing and matching value at number 7. And then Rand Carthon again at the podium when asked about the opportunity to trade out of the first-round pick.
You do that is building through the draft, and off of that, you need draft picks to do that. So would definitely be willing to listen, but it has to make sense for us.
I'll translate that as this is the answer every GM has to give when asked about trading, because on the chance that things go a different direction and you want to, or your favorite prospect blows out his knee in pro day, God forbid, you can't have decreased the value of your pick. I don't think the Titans are trading out of 7 after hearing Rand and Bryan talk yesterday.
Yeah. It's such a super prime spot, man. And in a new era of a head coach, it'd be good to get a guy that's going to last for a very long time, man. Picking in that top 10, more times than not, you're going to strike gold for the most part as far as the quality of those picks in that top 10. So I love the idea that they're open for business at 7. I will say, I've been saying all offseason, I love to see them go back a couple spots, pick up that third rounder, maybe pick up another second if they have to also. That would be beautiful. But, of course, we spoke about the value of what those picks are from going from 7 to 11. What did we say that was, Will, Kayla? About 2 2s maybe, or a 2 and a 3 to move up 4 spots?
Yeah, probably a 2 and a 3, or maybe just a 3, because when it happened last year for Detroit and Arizona, who were going from 6 to 11, I believe is what it was off the top of my head, within that ballpark where the minutia of it doesn't make a massive difference. You had to give up a 4th and your 6 in order to get, I believe it was 11, a 2nd, and a 3rd, but I'll fact check that again. I didn't have that up. I didn't know you were going to take it there.
No. All good. I was just going to be general about it. My bad.
I know John Robinson always used to say, too, and I'm sure this is every general manager, like you were saying, when it comes to these types of things, like you have to have a trade partner, too, right? You've got to make sure that you have somebody who wants to go up to that spot to get, let's say, maybe a quarterback, because we've seen some of these quarterbacks come on as of late, J.J. McCarthy, for instance. So maybe, that happens. But I think all things for that to happen, guys, they have to kind of fall into place. And then you've got to be willing to, if you're the Titans, if you do trade down a couple spots, maybe you do still like a tackle. But you've really got to make sure like that's your guy. I just don't see them passing up on some of the real gems at 7.
The Lions traded out of 6, swapping first rounds with the Cardinals, who were 12.
Okay.
So they got 12 and 34, and then 168 in the 5th round. And the Lions got 81 and 6. So there you go. Okay. If you're going to just trade 7 to move back 5 spots, you're likely only picking up a 2nd or maybe a 3rd in the process. And I don't think you're going to get much more than that. The price is going to be a 2 or a 3 to move back about 6 or 7 spots.
The only question I will have in this new era is if they stay at 7 or they move back and they don't take a guard. I mean, I said guard. They don't take a tackle. Where's the trust level to it? And I know that don't really factor into what they have going on inside the building, but we'll have to see the field presence of them. But are we in a position to where we trust this new regime and the moves that they're going to make? If you look at last year's draft picks, they hit. All the way down to the 7th round pick, they did hit. So I think there's a little grace to be given with if they do go wide receiver. I'm just playing a hypothetical here, but considering what they did last year, and you can't deny production was good from that group, you got to somewhat trust what they got going on.
One thing that I think crept under the radar a little bit yesterday was something Rand Carthon said about the salary cap when he was on the Buck Rising show. Interesting stuff about what they expected the salary cap to be before it was made official on Friday. 615-737-1045. You can vote on our Twitter poll at Ramon Kayla Will. What is more likely at pick 7, wide receiver or left tackle? So far, 70% of you say left tackle. You can make your voice heard on that on the phone lines as well at 615-737-1045. Well, here at Rand Carthon had to say about the salary cap, plus the status of one big Auburn superstar going into tonight's battle against Tennessee in Thompson Bowling Arena. All that and more as Hour 2 begins next.
It's Ramon Foster for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Y'all, we are still in the month of February, okay? And that's always Lover's Month, as we know it sometimes. But right now, Hiller has some deals that you are going to love, and they'll help you find the perfect match for your home, too, okay? First, this is a free UV light when you purchase a select HVAC system, okay? Or free whole home surge protection when you buy a new whole home generator, which are clutch for the Tennessee weather that we have at times. Or get 50% off a Diskeller when you buy a new tankless water heater. You'll never be more in love with your home than if you do business with Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. So find your perfect match and go to the website that I use when I have an issue, and that's happyhiller.com.
7 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. The Chiefs, Wolf, who is that? I'm Robert Walsh. The Chiefs planning on using their franchise tag on cornerback L'Jarius Sneed per Jeremy Fowler, and the plan is to look to trade him should the two sides not come to a long-term agreement. The Chiefs did this last time in 2019 when they franchise tagged defensive end D Ford and flipped him to San Francisco for a second-round pick. But Baltimore seemed less likely from moving on from their franchise target, as their general manager Eric DeCosta simply stated that they would tag Justin Madubuike if a long-term deal could not be reached by Tuesday. The Falcons releasing former Titans tight end Jonnu Smith. Smith caught 50 passes for 532 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. The move frees up about $6.5 million in cap space for Atlanta while leaving $2.5 million in dead cap. And in college basketball, number 7 Kansas falls at home to BYU 76-68. And in the SEC, Vanderbilt takes down Arkansas 85-82. And number 16 Kentucky escapes Mississippi State 91-89. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Seven a.m. on a rainy Wednesday morning in beautiful Music City, USA. The weather may be ugly, but when you wake up in Nashville, you're having a beautiful morning. Ramon Foster isn't in Nashville, so his morning is a bit less beautiful. He's in Indianapolis as a part of Titans Radio's coverage of the NFL Combine. We remind you to subscribe to hear our Titans Radio friends on the OTP, the official Titans podcast, and our other Titans Radio teammate here in the building. Rhett Bryan will join us in 2 hours at 9 o'clock, talking Titans and discussing NFL Combine headlines. Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, myself, Will Bowling here in studios. 615-737-1045 is our number, with 1 hour down and 3 more to go.
Let's go.
Let's go, baby.
I hear more voices joining Ramon at the table.
I was
in
like,
Indianapolis.
it sounds like a party.
It was Rhett Bryan come over, explain to us that somebody blew up the restroom.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, my God. Damn. That stomach bug's going around, I heard.
I don't know, man. I don't know what y'all were growing up with, but what I grew up with was whoever smelt it dealt it. So I think Rhett Bryan's suspect number 1. We'll have to get to the bottom of this at 9 and 9:20.
Is there free coffee for you guys there somewhere? Is that the product of this?
I think so, man. You got this early morning crew that gets up and work out, and sometimes there's a restrooms available afterwards.
It's flowing.
The tough thing about the Combine was in that I've been in that exact room you're in, and they would have food and coffee and drinks for the NFL Network talent, like right by all the podium stuff. But there was a velvet rope to keep all of those snacks and things just for the NFL Network talent, and I think it's a requirement to be like 5'7" to work for the NFL Network as well. So all of the lovely short people who you see on television who have to stand on boxes to look half as tall as the big linemen like Ramon Foster they do games and things with oftentimes. Yeah. They just have it all to themselves.
You want to know what they have now? They have a wall of curtains. That's what they have now. If you can't see, I just showed it to you guys as on. So it's a wall of curtains, because what's happened, though, Will, apparently the broadcasting side that I'm on for radio and media has it's somewhat shrunk, or they've split it to where now they got the big TV sets over on the other side for the people that do TV. Also, can I say this? So I love to know, Will, because you've been here. What was there security measures? Because y'all know I collect those bands, on my travel bags that, hey, you've been scanned. And I've gone in so many stadiums and I've had their collector items for me. You know what I'm saying? Like where they give you the wristbands, hey, your bag is cleared. Well, what happened this morning? She cut me off, okay? the lady at the front cut off my other bands on my backpack, and I was this close to just being upset. And I said, Ramon, you have a lot of size on this lady. There is no reason for you to go at her about cutting your bands off. Buck has his green band clearance too. I'm breaking down to him how they cut all my other bands off, Buck, and how they were, badges of honor with the places that I've been. Buck's about to come on right now, too, to break this down for you guys.
Is he? Yeah, Indiana, fresh off an Indiana game there. I don't want to talk about it, he says.
Didn't they win?
Anywhere near that.
Yeah, Buck, that's wild style.
Did they not win the game?
Alarm.
I don't want to talk about it yet. All right?
Okay.
These are the rules. I'm here to talk about
you
bad
too.
tech.
Are you the one that pulled the fire alarm, or was that someone else?
Did he go to the bathroom just now? Did he blow up the bathroom?
TBD.
TBD.
Okay?
I'm with
We'll
that.
find out.
I'm with
What happened
that.
to your back there?
Man, as you go in these different stadiums, you got to go through security clearance, right?
Yeah.
And I, for years, have collected these bands because to show the different places I've been. Well, this morning, sweet lady up front cut mine off. All the other ones, she cut them off in my bag.
Did you tell her?
It was by the time it started happening, tears was rolling down my eyes. But
you seem a bit dusty.
I'm a little thrown off by this, is what I'm letting you know. To give me this bland green one that's no relevance to it, doesn't have the stadium that we're at or the convention.
Did you keep the tags that they
Nah,
cut off?
I didn't keep the tags. I just left them because I was slightly upset. But
What is this,
want me
side
to go back?
conversation, Sally? What are we doing here?
I'm just letting
At
you
least
know.
show your face, Buck. Be at least man enough to show your face.
I don't think
Not
Buck
until
wanna
10.
show. Yeah,
Damn.
that's what I'm saying. He's behind. You hear him.
I
But
just came in
yeah.
to check on my friend. I'll go about that. There's linebackers and defensive linemen
Well,
talking. I'll leave
Yeah,
now.
that is on the
Buck-
other side of the curtain, Buck.
To
That's
that
what we talked
point,
about too.
Go
Buck
Hoosiers.
did tweet this morning and said, linebackers talk today. Who do you want to hear from? And it took everything in my power not to channel Jarvis Schaefer, our former executive producer, and respond to your mom. That's who we want to hear from. But I held back. I'm not a hero.
You're a pro.
You
Will.
can, if you did, you would have been muted.
I would have been. I thought that. I literally.
We do not care.
I had the exact thought of I'm going to be muted if I say this, so I'm not going to do it.
Restraint is a good thing. Goodbye, friends.
Appreciate
Bye,
you coming
Buck.
on for a second, Buck, and
This
feeling my
is-
pain, dog.
The most interesting man in the world, Buck Rising, who will have his exploits at Assembly Hall, I guess, to lead his show this morning at 10 o'clock.
See you guys.
I
Oh, hi,
gotta hear
Vrabes.
about this fire alarm situation. I know all things of content. I'll be tuning in to hear Buck explain what happened. I've never seen an arena cleared out the way Indiana's was last night.
By the way, his
He has a
freaking
frown on his face.
his
by the
Hoosiers
way.
won. So I don't know what he's
74 to
all
70.
just like pushing rocks around for. 74 to 70, like Will said.
Like, I feel Buck
win.
on that one, though, man. I go to an event, and I have a timeline in my head about how long this event is supposed to last. I don't want to be interrupted by a fire alarm from some idiot that I'm sure pulled it in the middle of the game. So I feel him on that.
That is
He was
kinda
probably
wild.
trying to get back by 9 o'clock, and he got back by 11.
Well, there was one thing Rand Carthon said on the Buck Rising show yesterday that I thought was particularly interesting. And he didn't necessarily say it at the podium. I think this kind of got under the radar a little bit of the Titans brass knowing exactly what the cap number was going to be on a week where almost everyone else in the NFL was kind of surprised.
No, we were very, very close. We were very close. Myself, Vin, and Chad, A-Rob, we had the conversation probably 4 days prior, and we put our projection, and even looking at the projection we put was like, that might be a little high.
Yeah.
And then I'll say this much: we were single digits, so we weren't 30 million off or anything like that. We were single digits away, which I was like, damn, we were, pretty close. And so it's a gift and a curse because it puts us in an even better position, but the teams that were a lot further away from us, they're now a little closer.
Yeah, the marketplace is
And,
more open for
so
everybody.
it puts them well positioned. But like I said, we have to exercise patience, right? And I think I kind of talked about it somewhere. I can't remember. It's like when we were young and you get money from the tooth fairy and you got the money in your pocket and you go to the store and you want to try to buy everything that's in the store. And so my parents would say the money's burning a hole in your pocket, and so you have to resist that temptation because, again, you want to be well positioned, in what we call cap casualties. When some of these, veteran guys become free, and you want to be well positioned to bring in some of those guys as well later in the process. And so you have to resist that urge of going out and spending too soon. Hopefully we're past the injury bug here. Of guys, but that kind of carries over into the season. You want to be well positioned to have, operating costs, in case you have to take on some of those, placing guys on IR, having some of those salaries, and bringing guys in. You want to be well positioned to have those things. And last year we kind of consistently were in the top 5, in available cap space. So we want to kind of be in that place, forever moving forward.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is why the Titans employ Chad Brinker. Right there is to know the cap number like that. By the way, that conversation with Buck and Rand actually reminded me of a knock-knock joke, if I do say so myself. Ramon, knock-knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting
Moo! Let the man finish his sentence, Buck. What do we do? Bring it back right now.
He was excited.
In the middle
okay?
of Rand's, the marketplace. Yeah, it's going to grow. I know what I'm talking about. No, I'm smart too. I knew it too. No, Rand, listen. I know it. Anyway.
I hate you.
But anyway, I do think it is interesting.
No. You can't tell that joke and just continue to do the doggone show, Will.
No, why not? I'm a pro.
Interrupting. I think I've heard that on Family Guy.
You probably heard it when you were in elementary school because that's the last time I told it.
We're better than this. Kayla,
we're
get
not.
control of it.
Hey, man, I got hit in the head last night, so I'm just not all here either.
Why'd you get hit? Why are we just now hearing about this at 7-Eleven?
Because I just felt the bump on my head and realized it has now created a bump. Let's just say a phone flew on my head on accident. Didn't think it would be
See,
the
Kayla,
lump
you
that
stop
is.
right there.
No, it was not my phone.
Oh, what? Hey, Kayla, there's numbers we can
I
call
have so
for
many
help,
follow-up
okay?
questions. How did this happen?
It was accidental. Let's just say the dog does not need to be on the bed.
Oh,
okay?
glad you said
Let's
the
just
dog.
say the dog does not. Yeah.
Woo.
Well, the sheets then had to be flipped, and then the phone went flying.
Oh, I've had that happen before.
I've done that to my cats before, where like you wake up and you can't find your phone, so you sling the sheets off of you, and then all of a sudden that cat just hits the side of the wall and it runs off.
Wait a minute, y'all. We're talking about abuse and animals and heads and stuff. What are we doing?
PETA
Sorry,
just
we
called.
got
They
off
want
track.
Robert jail. They want Robert jailed for the next 3 to 6 months.
They come after you, too.
Goodness.
Buck will take your cat.
Anyway, I was going to have this conversation about how Rand is right. That the cat moving up this much isn't necessarily a great thing for the Titans, but I don't think we can get this back on the rails. So let's regroup. Let's go to break and let's do something else. What kind of differences can we expect from the Titans offense? And does one Titans playmaker have a legitimate role in this team moving forward? One that Rand Carthon tells us is working out with DeAndre Hopkins. We'll talk about that next. Hey, what's going on? It's Will Bowling. Spring is right around the corner. Are you looking to check some items off your home to-do list? Of course you are. I am. You are too. Or maybe you're looking to freshen up your home's look before hosting friends and family as the weather warms over the coming months. Look, we've all had those areas of the house, of the apartment, of wherever that have been neglected a little bit, right? When it's only you hanging out, nobody's coming over. Well, available 24/7, 365, the Lee Company home improvement professionals, they got you covered. From pressure washing your driveway or deck to drywall repairs, landscape lighting, painting, and more, Lee Company is all you need. Contact Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit them online at leecompany.com to schedule your appointment. And when I say available 24/7, 365, they mean it. Lee Company is always available to help you with whatever comes up in your home, or maybe you just got a home to-do list that you need to get checked off before you can invite company to come back around the house this spring and summer. 615-567-1000. That's the number to call, or visit them online at leecompany.com. That's leecompany.com for all your home improvement needs this summer. Lee Company, all you need. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW, brewed by 8th and Roast. Locally owned and operated by lifelong friends turned business partners who design the local shops as a way to feel welcomed, connected, and part of a community. Stop by and see them at 8th Avenue, Charlotte, the airport, or the brand new spot at the Broadview at Vanderbilt. Guys, does Treylon Burks have a legitimate role in the Titans offense in 2024? What's the expectation for him based on what we were told yesterday?
As far as Treylon Burks goes,
Yep.
he has to. This has got to be a growth. I know there are a lot of people that feel a certain type of way. He's washed or he cut ties with them and those types of things. But you got to look at his injuries that he's had. I think the offseason was exactly what we as fans and people that covered this team needed from him. Look, he got in shape. He looked good. He was running well. And then he have a practice injury. That sucks right there. That sidelines him for a while right there. Get back, have a real good game. Coming back, I think, in the Chargers or one of those home games, he went out and did his things like, oh, okay. Then I think either the next week or the week after that, he has the bad concussion in Pittsburgh. And you look at his situation and say he's snake bitten and just goodness, get on track. But the expectations of him making that year 1 to year 2 jump and those types of things right there, I think he was on track for. Injuries derail a lot of stuff. And the other side of that type of conversation is in sports, sometimes you do have to be lucky when it comes down to injuries and or be in the right place or not have those long-term injuries. A guy like Treylon, I felt like, had the knee, couldn't really run the way you wanted him to, and then he gets back and he has something that happened as far as the head injury also, and it derails his season that he's capable of having. I'm not out on Treylon. I like Treylon as an athlete. Is he A.J.? No, but who knew A.J. Brown was going to be what he was going to be at that moment too? That P word that chases a lot of players, I'm still believing that Treylon Burks has a lot of potential left in him when it comes down to how he can be as a player. And the conversation that Rand had about what he's doing this offseason as far as training gives me that optimism.
Yeah, I thought that was important for Rand Carthon to kind of give us an update on what Burks is doing this offseason, because last offseason it was made clear he stayed here. He did everything he was supposed to do. And yeah, he did look good during training camp. But I'm at the point now, guys, where, you know, you're about to enter your 3rd season of play. You have to find some consistency when it comes to real games. When you enter the NFL season, Treylon Burks needs to be available, A. He needs to be able to be a playmaker, B. And I don't know if I have enough faith in what I've seen in the past 2 years to say that it's going to happen. I want it to happen for Treylon Burks. I think he's a good player, but I don't think that he's been able to have enough confidence in himself because of these injuries kind of derailing his seasons, and therefore he just has not put up the numbers. I mean, this guy has 1 touchdown in 2 seasons with the Tennessee Titans, and this is a guy that they went up to get and traded away A.J. Brown for. I don't give a damn about what the expectations were for him. He needed to be able to be the player he was going to be, at least at this point of, you know, this career, 2nd year in, 3rd year in now, like showing some sort of optimism that, hey, this could be a guy, even if he is wide receiver too. He's not really even that right now, guys. So I think this is a huge offseason for him, but not only an offseason for him where he needs to make sure he's becoming a pro, and maybe he can do that under DeAndre Hopkins, but he needs to actually show it on the field, guys. And if he doesn't show it on the field, just like we talk about quarterbacks all the time in this league, they're disposable. Well, so is a wide receiver that was drafted in the 1st round if he can't get it done.
This was Rand Carthon yesterday on the side talking to local media, courtesy of A to Z Sports on Twitter, at A to Z Sports, about Treylon Burks and who he is training with this offseason.
The injury thing, I mean, the concussion thing was a real deal. You know what I mean? I think we all saw that from the Pittsburgh game. And so those are the type of things you can't really prevent. But I do know that Treylon is off this offseason training with D-Hop and some other pros around the league, which I think would be good for him to see how other pros prepare and get ready for the season so he can add that to his game. I've seen a couple clips of him running routes and doing stuff on, in the offseason. And for him, it's an offseason where he's not trying to get healthy. He can work on perfecting his craft as opposed to trying to get back to get healthy.
So that's Rand Carthon yesterday talking to local media in Indy about Treylon Burks training with DeAndre Hopkins. How significant is that?
I'll say this, too. I think we all, at some point, probably need to backpedal, especially the media side, too, when it pertains to D-Hop. D-Hop was painted as a guy that didn't practice, didn't have great leadership skills, or wasn't available and all about himself and stuff like that, and has proved here in Nashville to be totally opposite of that. And here's the other side of it for me, for Treylon Burks training with D-Hop too. Kayla, great point too on the timeline.
Thanks, Mom.
That the timeline that Treylon has to have, right? Like the expectation for him. But here's the thing: plagued by injuries. Also having a room that was immature as far as the guys that was in there. Mm-hmm. This is his first time actually having, as Rand just said, a healthy offseason to where he can actually go into it and worry about just running, catching, and building his game as a pro. And knowing how to build it as a pro, too. When I came into the league, I had guys put their arms around my shoulders and told me, this is how you become a pro, Moan. Okay? Look, young fella, he's coming, Razor Ramon, Razor. This is how you become a pro right here. You do these things. You train this way. You take this amount of time off. You lift this way. You pull back this time of the year. You go harder this time of the year. If you're trying to shred weight, you do that here. Treylon hasn't had that guidance, respectfully to the older dudes that's been in that room before him. And this is where I give a lot of props to D-Hop and just saying, look, let me show you how to be a pro. Because that's the truth behind it. That room has been young. That room has been depleted. That room has been full of guys. The wide receiver room for the Titans have been full of guys trying to prove their self-worth in the NFL too. There's been no veteran guy in that room to guide guys through other than D-Hop. And D-Hop's time with Treylon has been somewhat cut because of injuries to Treylon also. And that's where I'm saying to myself, this is the offseason that I expect him to make that second year jump we was thinking he was going to make in year 3. So as it pertains to my expectations for Treylon now, it's probably way higher for any player on this roster because of his health in the offseason, because D-Hop has extended that olive branch to him, and now he has a method into how to become a pro. Maybe it's Jug's machine for the first month of the offseason that Treylon didn't know how to, start his offseason training. That's where I stand with him. I absolutely love the fact that he's with D-Hop and now has some guidance. And the other side of it is, too, potentially have an offensive coordinator and Bryan Callahan and Nick Holtz that know how to call plays for a body type like his. The advantage that Treylon has is T. Higgins and the guys in Cincinnati that have been in his role before. Finding his niche as far as what you're good at and maximizing those things. You can't put a guy in an offense that's not going to work for him. This is a staff now that's capable of building with the weapons that they have. And for me, Treylon is a weapon that can be utilized because you've seen it. He's never really had an injury problem until he got into the NFL. So that's where, with me having a lot of optimism for him, I'd stand on that by saying this should be a big-time year for him, simply because of D-Hop. And the other part of it for me is this, too. My bad if I'm going long, but this part of it is for me, too. D-Hop is an older guy. He's finding a different role as a vet to lead younger players, too. I see a situation to where if D-Hop sees that growth and Treylon shows that growth in practice and training camp and stuff like that, you don't have an ego problem. You have a guy in D-Hop that says, I'll fall back in player number 2 because I've seen what this guy's capable of. He's put in the work, and he deserves to be wide receiver number 1 here in Nashville.
You also got Tyke Tolbert now, right? As a wide receiver coach, tons of experience in the NFL. Maybe he's going to give a different perspective on how he looks at these wide receivers, especially the development of some of them like a Treylon Burks. But I think D-Hop could be the biggest blessing to the Titans organization that we have seen in a long time. Just because I think time after time again have seen these free agent signings in the past that just didn't go right when it came to wide receivers. He's come here. He's showing not only he's able to do it on the field, but if he's able to kind of get Treylon in that spot too, to teach him kind of really how to be a pro, you could get possibly a big gift out of that this season. But you're right, Ramon. I think I give him this season to see what he can do in terms of taking steps in the right direction under Bryan Callahan-led offense, under the situation where you have had some time with D-Hop in the offseason. So I'm willing to definitely give Treylon Burks this season to prove that.
I'll be honest with you. I'm on the other side of this because let's go back to 2019 when A.J. Brown was a rookie and had 1,051 yards in that offense, and look at the other wide receivers who were in that room. You had a 24-year-old Corey Davis. You had a 24-year-old Jonnu Smith. You had a 26-year-old Adam Humphries, 25-year-old Tajay Sharp. You had a 35-year-old Delaney Walker who was in that room for a final season in Tennessee, and I don't think that necessarily counts as someone who was mentoring A.J. Brown as a tight end. But to me, if Treylon Burks had that alpha mentality in him and had the ability to make plays on deep balls where he's consistently dropping them, he would have already done it regardless of who's in the room. Like, to me, it's good that DeAndre Hopkins is with him. But to me, for Treylon Burks, the issue is not preparation, nor is it even really health. It's the fact that every time we see Treylon Burks run a vertical route, 20-plus yards down the field, the way the Titans wanted to utilize him in the previous offense, he's dropping the football. He's consistently not making a play on the ball against a smaller defensive back, going up and high-pointing the ball and making tough contested catches the way we saw A.J. Brown make his money and make his big extension in Philly as a Tennessee Titan. And yes, I know it is unfair to compare Treylon Burks to A.J. Brown at this point. He's not going to be A.J. Brown. It's just not going to happen. But to me, I'm worried less about Treylon Burks' preparation and more about, can he be a vertical threat in this offense? And I've seen enough to say the answer is no. So at this point, Bryan Callahan and Rand Carthon talked yesterday about the need for multiple wide receivers, which I think is interesting, and bringing in two guys in this draft and utilizing wide receivers more to their skill sets. I like Treylon Burks on in-breaking routes on play action. I like him over the middle with the football in his hands. I don't like Treylon Burks trying to make a play on the ball as a vertical threat. That, to me, is where I think he might be used a bit differently, to where he's not necessarily wide receiver 2 or 3 or 4. It's more so we're going to have more wide receivers in the room to do different jobs that they are best at. This was Bryan Callahan yesterday on potentially wanting multiple wide receivers in this draft.
Yeah, I think there's an element of explosiveness, of speed that we can add that would help us. This is a really fun class of players, really from the top part of the class all the way down to the bottom. There's going to be good receivers, I think you'll find, that'll come off the board in the second, third, and fourth rounds that I think will be contributors for some teams. So it's a deep class. There's really a lot of variations of player. There's guys that are good with the ball in their hands. There's guys that are really fast. There's guys that are big and strong. So there's a good mix of talent that fits. And when you're building the receiver room, you're trying to collect a little bit of all of those things. And so it's a fun class to evaluate, and hopefully we can find a couple guys that fit us.
A couple guys that fit us, Bryan Callahan says at the end of that comment. That's where I fall on Treylon. Is I think he falls into that category of he's a pretty good receiver with the ball in his hands. I don't think he was being used in the way that is best for him last season. Anyway, there's my rant.
No,
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I agree with both of your guys' points, and that's why I think you have a year to prove it, because now you're in an offense where maybe you're utilized a little differently. You can stay healthy. You can gain some confidence. I want to see a little more dog in him as well. Like, I don't feel like besides D-Hop, there's many wide receivers who even have that kind of dog mentality. Like, I want to see that. I want to see that you're the number one guy, or you're a guy who has confidence in yourself. And I haven't seen that necessarily from Treylon as well.
I'll throw this in there too. I think your point about that 19 team is very valid. But the thing that supported that 19 team to me was also the defense that they had also. you didn't feel the pressure of having to perform.
Yep.
And this ain't a trailing thing. This is an offensive thing for me. You didn't feel the pressure of having to overperform because the defense couldn't get off the field or stop a nosebleed at times and stuff like that. It's two-sided in the expectations for this squad to me. There has to be the ability of both sides complementing each other. The most impressive guy on this team last year was Ryan Stonehouse. I mean, putting Jeff aside and Derek and the stuff that they did, but the consistency of one side of the ball was Ryan Stonehouse. So the search to make plays and the pressure, I'm sure, and I've been in those situations before where the offense isn't clicking the way you need to, and the plays have to be made, and players are overstressing themselves. We got to think for a stretch. The best wide receiver, well, was the second best after D-Hop, was NWI, Nick Westbrook-Akine. Like, think about those situations, the guys that you had to go through to have plays be made. The designation of playmakers for this squad, I hope clears itself up. And in my hopes, man, just because you got to have them this year and truthfully next year too, as far as Treylon concerned, it'd be good. It would be good to see it be him. That way you don't have to have the stress of chasing a free agent wide receiver or a veteran who's been cut on another team and not re-signed. Those are the things that you expect. And the other side of this is this, too, for me. Treylon ain't a Rand draft guy. I think Rand and Chad and Bryan Callahan will learn to love Treylon if he starts to make plays. And that's where it does fall on his shoulders again. I always try to tell people, man, the best balance of being productive is a little bit of anxiety of performing and a lot of hard work. Those two things have to work hand in hand. And I'm hoping Treylon does feel that pressure. He needs it. But the rest of this squad does too. So that's where I lay my hat when it comes down to him already starting to at least seek out answers from a veteran guy, potential future Hall of Famer, and DeAndre Hopkins.
Rand Carthon did make another statement yesterday that we have heard from Titans executives and coaches for the last 2 or 3 years. The Titans still have the need for speed.
Yeah, we have to improve on the team speed. I mean, I think that's visible, and we're going to do that. And the name of the game in this league is speed. I think you guys saw that when we played Miami this year, the type of threat that they had, with their fast guys, that, just being able to outflank people with motions and the stress that causes a defense. So we have to be able to match that defensively, but we want to be able to apply that same pressure offensively with speed.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not a very smart person. Actually, that's 100% accurate. But I don't love Miami being the example, considering who won that football game.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's kind of like, okay, wait a second here. Does it really matter? In the end, for this team, I do think it does. Like, they haven't had much of that who can stretch a field in terms of a guy doing that that has the speed factor. It's just something they've shied away from in the offense of old here in Tennessee. And even though Mike Vrabel said last year we were going to add speed, we needed to add speed, I don't know if that was the speed he was talking about because it never really happened. So I trust this staff to at least address that this season. It might not happen overnight where you have all the speed you want, but they'll do something.
I'll tell you whose speed we did see that game was Tajay Spears.
Oh, you did.
In that Miami game.
He's made of
Yeah.
the right stuff, according to Rand Carthon, Tajay Spears. He didn't say stuff.
Yeah,
but
he said, the other one.
Shiana.
I liked
No,
it.
what was it?
I liked it.
What was he speaking of?
Poo-poo.
Huh? I don't
Shiano.
understand that term
Let's
either.
go with Shiana.
Okay.
He's pressing us.
I was trying to see if somebody was going to get fired today. I needed y'all to say it. That's all.
No way. You want us to get fired, man? Damn. Damn.
That's Charles Davis right there, man. Just waving and stuff, man. Shout out to Charles.
VFL.
That's so cool. VFL. Go Vols.
615-737-1045. We'll get to other league headlines from yesterday at the NFL Combine, where the Chiefs tell L'Jarius Sneed they're tagging him, but others say that might be because they are trading him. We'll get to those headlines next.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson for the Wang Vision Institute, now offering intense pulse light treatments. If you don't know what that is, a simple photofacial treatment really helps with rejuvenating the skin. Maybe you've dealt with some sun damage. You're seeing those dark spots appear now that you're getting a little older. The treatments are awesome. They even out your skin tone, texture, as well as hyperpigmentation that so many of us deal with. And so for more information on IPL treatments, along with all other services, you can visit wangvisioninstitute.com today. This is a procedure, only takes 20 to 30 minutes. Then you're out the door. You're good to go. If you're also interested in checking out your eyes for the first time in a long time, maybe you need to see why you can't see up close or why you need readers, or maybe you can't see far away when you're driving, go ahead and get your eyes checked out. It's probably a good thing to do, and they are the ones to do it with. wangvisioninstitute.com. They also have free online seminars every Tuesday at 6:45 when it comes to your vision. So RSVP to that today. Schedule your free consultation at wangvisioninstitute.com.
Wednesday morning, rolling right along on RKW. Ramon, Kayla, and Will is brewed up by 8th and Roasted. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll hear what Bruce Pearl had to say ahead of Tennessee-Auburn tonight. Some praise for his former employer ahead of a big one at the Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center that you can watch tonight. 615-737-1045, our number. Ramon Foster in Indy, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling here with you from Nashville. Yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs tell L'Jarius Sneed that they are tagging him and maybe trading him. According to a report from friend of the show, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, Sneed is agreeable to the scenario, which gives him a chance to talk with other teams while the Chiefs remain in play for his services in 2024. A source telling ESPN's Jeremy Fowler that pending league approval, a new contract for Sneed, who is a free agent, could be worked out as a part of a trade to kick in at the start of the new league year. These are remarkable amount of cap gymnastics that Kansas City is trying to do.
Yes, indeed. The type of stuff you do when you're trying to stay in that hunt, man, is to get some value back. That trade and sign has something coming back to Kansas City. And, again, when you're that good and you develop your in-house players, you can't retain everybody. That is where it gets problematic. That's where you see teams make those strong Super Bowl runs in Kansas City. As long as they got Patrick Mahomes, they are still going to be in it. So they have to draft well. They have to be able to get rid of talent at the right appropriate time. And those are the types of things that smart organizations do. And I'm looking forward to seeing where L'Jarius Sneed go. I don't know, again, Rand said it earlier, just because we got a lot of money don't mean we need to spend it. L'Jarius is going to cost. But he is a huge piece of the puzzle if you're looking to strengthen up your team in general and especially the defense.
I remember hearing an interview with KC's defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, I think it was about a month ago or just after the Super Bowl. And one thing that really stood out to me that he said is, we had the smartest defense I've ever had in terms of me coaching a defense, in terms of just like how they understand football, how they're able to make adjustments on the fly. That to me was interesting that he said this by far was the smartest group of guys in terms of a defense that I've had in a long time. And look, I mean, the product was there this year. That's a big reason why they were able to find their way out of some tough times this year in Kansas City when the offense wasn't doing its part, when the wide receivers were dropping balls in terms of the inconsistency of it. So I think that was really interesting. And L'Jarius Sneed, obviously a huge part of that defense this year as a playmaker in that secondary was solid. And you would have to think they're going to have to make a couple difficult decisions there because, like you said, cap gymnastics, you can do gymnastics. It's not like you're always going to stick the landing, though, right? You're not going to be able to keep every single guy, but that's the luxury of also having a Patrick Mahomes. If L'Jarius Sneed is made available, because they are letting him talk to other teams right now, damn, if you're the Titans, like I know that Rand said you don't want to spend all your money in one place, but if you could somehow make it work to get a guy like that that's a difference maker in that cornerbacks room, guys, it would be huge.
Oh, you'd have to part with a draft pick at that point, though.
Yeah, you would.
Now he's going to get traded.
And you're exactly right. And you got to come back to that.
If T. Higgins is not a trade option, then I don't know if L'Jarius Sneed is either.
Yeah.
Duke Tobin, the Cincinnati Bengals general manager yesterday, did say T. Higgins fits us perfectly, so we tagged him for that reason. The hypotheticals of what could happen, it's hard for me to comment on. Essentially said it is hard to move a guy on a one-year deal and reiterated Cincinnati's desire to keep him on the roster for 2024 on the one-year franchise tag worth $21.8 million for the upcoming season. But Duke Tobin did leave the door open that he could still be moved and would not get into hypotheticals now of what can happen, saying he's not under contract and it's hard for me to predict all the different scenarios.
Yeah, it's just the balance, man. Things change when you pay that quarterback, and I hate to make it about them all the time, but these are the problems that you run into. I don't think anybody thought Kansas City will ever move on from Tyreek Hill, and I essentially think the same thing is happening in Cincinnati when you speak of T. Higgins. The difference is they got an option right now with T. Higgins to franchise him, and Kansas City didn't have that with Cheetah.
You guys watch Kentucky, Mississippi State last night?
Yes.
I did.
Unbelievable finish. Yep. Reed Shepherd with 32 points. Kentucky led 85-78 with 49 seconds left and then did everything they could to lose the game. And Josh Hubbard hit about a 30-footer to tie the game at 89 with 11 seconds left. His 7th-3 of the game. He had 7 threes. That's a career high, and 34 points, which is also a career high. I mean, you had Mississippi State nursing a double-digit lead at one point in the second half. Then you had Kentucky pretty much just running away with this. They ended up winning 91-89 on a Reed Shepherd runner with about 0.5 left. And he was the reason why Kentucky left Stark Vegas with a victory last night.
Dude, and we were talking about this game yesterday. They were the underdogs, Kentucky was.
3.5-point underdog.
Yeah,
that's correct.
in Starkville. So this was a really close game. But then again, I said, I got to see Kentucky go down there, and you've got to find a way to win this game. And it was not pretty. But I don't know, more of a Mississippi State like collapse than it was a Kentucky victory in the end. But it's a victory when it comes down to it in a time where they need to have some consistent play here going into March Madness.
Simply put, this is where their recruiting big time that Cal does paid off for them.
615-737-1045 is our number. Coming up in hour number 3. Bruce Pearl gives some big praise to his former employer and updates the status of an Auburn star who is a game-time decision tonight. Headlines on the other side. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Do you or someone close to you find it maddening to hear conversation when there's background noise? Maybe it's while you're eating at your favorite restaurant, you're watching your favorite team play on the hardwood this March. Well, if so, I want to introduce you to my friends at Brentwood Hearing Center. With 5 doctors of audiology, state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment, and the most recent hearing device technology, they want to get you off the sidelines and back in the game of better hearing. With over 85 years experience from their convenient location just off of I-65 in Brentwood, they're going to tailor a hearing solution to each individual patient. And maybe you're saying, well, when it's quiet, when I'm one-on-one talking to somebody, I can hear fine. But then you get in a crowded restaurant and things get more difficult. They've got a solution just for you, something that's going to make it easier to hear in crowded environments. And you've got the latest hearing device technology that's going to connect wirelessly to your phone, to your television. That way you can always clearly communicate with anybody in the room. Give them a call today, 615-377-0420. You won't believe what this technology can do for you. You can visit them online as well at BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's 615-377-0420. Let the madness be on the court this March. Get off the sidelines and back in the game. Online at BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing, better life.
What's going on? 8 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. The Chiefs planning on use their franchise tag on cornerback L'Jarius Sneed per Jeremy Fowler yesterday. The plan is to look to trade him should the two sides not come to a long-term agreement. The Chiefs last did this in 2019 when they franchise tagged defensive end Dee Ford and then flipped him to San Francisco for a second-round pick. But Baltimore taking a different approach, seeming like they're moving towards franchise tagging their defensive lineman Justin Madubuike. As general manager Eric DeCosta said yesterday, if they can't reach a long-term deal, he will be tagged by Tuesday. Falcons releasing former Titans tight end Jonnu Smith. Smith caught 50 passes for 532 yards and 3 touchdowns last season. The move frees up about $6.5 million in cap space while carrying $2.5 million in dead cap into 2024. And in college basketball last night, number 7 Kansas falls at home to BYU, 76-68. Vanderbilt took down Arkansas, 85-82. And number 16 Kentucky escapes Mississippi State, 91-89. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second half of the show, hour number 3 starts right now on a loaded edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW, brewed by 8th and Roasts on 104.5 The Zone. The snickering is Ramon Foster in Indianapolis. Kayla Anderson in studio. Robert Walsh behind the glass. I'm Will Bowling. When I try to make Ramon Foster laugh, I can't, but apparently I have done something to make him chuckle now. What did I do?
It was Kirby bragging about his bands on his backpack not getting cut off, man. I think he had a secret handshake with the lady is what he's telling me.
Allen Kirby knows every security staff member in the National Football League. Every single one of them. Every single one of them.
Popular.
Not just that, but also the animals that they employ around here. He gave us a National Geographic update about one male dog beelining to a female dog in the system. But it's rated for radio, and he's turning on his mic right now. He's turning on his mic.
Hi,
Kirby, what's up?
Hey, good morning, folks. It wasn't anything bad, but we have a nice chocolate lab outside, one of the officer's dogs. And then we have a younger female black lab, and our fella was wetting the eyebrows, and he kept and his handler twice said, "Leave her alone." And she's halfway across the room, but he would not quit turning and looking. And so as the other officer with the black lab made his way back up, you know how they patrol, made his way back up to the gates there, he said, "Okay, you can say hi." And this dude came apart. He just did the shaking. "Okay, man, I'm going to go talk to the girl."
Wow.
So, in other words, like
funny.
the way Buck looks at free press box food for media.
Right.
Yeah, or like anytime you see a UT van go by.
That's
you know,
true.
Like, the caravan type, he's like, you guys are like, oh. That was our fella out there today.
Kirby, was he fixed, though?
I didn't investigate.
Okay.
I mean, that's beyond me.
Let's just
I was looking. It was eye contact only. You know what I mean? Eye contact only.
Look, trying to bear.
Where's you taking this show?
Trying to get a litter.
Wow.
I want a puppy, a new one. I want another one.
Kayla, you got to stop having Rhett abuse you first before we get you another dog.
Red's in
Let's work
trouble.
on
He's in
that
the
one
doghouse.
Yeah. Well, that's where he lives, Kayla. Come on now.
I know.
Kirby Allen Kirby, thank you for keeping us all on the rails and going out to the airwaves.
By the way, man, I went on the other side of the curtain where the defensive players are interviewing. They got, I think, linebackers and DNs, if I'm not mistaken. If y'all ever want to tell the difference between a football player, soccer player, a regular human being in the world, look at the necks. Okay. These, I didn't, and mine was that way. My wife used to tell me, your neck is, she used to just tell me, it's just skinny now. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, the necks of, like, current football players, thick. How many C's are we using?
Two
Okay.
Q's.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a silent K.
Like, you realize, again, I say this for this time of the year, like, it's a young man's game. Like, these dudes are, don't try dudes in public because you've had a couple, liquid courage drinks and stuff like that. Like, they're built different. And even me as a former player, I see that.
615-737-1045. We'll get back to Titans discussion coming up in 15 minutes. And ask the question if the Titans tipped their hand on the number 7 overall pick at all yesterday from Bryan Callahan and Rand Carthon's conversations with the media. You can vote on our poll of the morning at Ramon Kayla Will on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, wherever your heart leads you. That says, what is more likely at pick number 7 for the Titans, wide receiver or left tackle? 68% so far say left tackle, which surprises me a bit considering how much we spoke about wide receivers yesterday in Indianapolis. We'll get back to that discussion coming up in just a few minutes. But guys, big one at the Food City Center in Thompson Bowling Arena tonight as Tennessee takes on Auburn, two of the most balanced teams in the SEC, where Tennessee ranks 6th in the country according to KenPom. Auburn is 5th in the country according to the analytics of KenPom.com. The Tigers have the number 2 defense and the number 21 offense, or excuse me, Tennessee, number 2 defense, number 21 offense. Auburn has the number 5 defense and the number 15 offense. So 2 teams that get it done on both sides of the floor. Bruce Pearl saying yesterday, I think Tennessee is the best team in the league.
Way to rub our back, Bruce. way to rub our back in our
Brownie
feet,
points.
man. I got to give it to Bruce, man. That's the thing you love about him as a coach, as a recruiter, and when he's on your side. And I think a lot of Tennessee fans still feel that way about Bruce Pearl and his ability to be charismatic like that. He understands the game. He's a good football coach, a proven winner, and he knows how to play that game. And I'll say this, too. Coach Barnes has been around long enough to understand what that is. He's saying, man, basically, I mutually respect you. This is going to be a haymaker type of game, and may the best coaching team win. I love this build-up of that type of stuff, man. You got 2 really good teams playing at TBA, man, and I'm excited to see what this look like. I expect it to be fast-paced. I expect the refs to somewhat move out of the way. Do we know who the referee is going to be? Because if it's Pat Adams, then I'm going to go ahead and log that as a loss for the Vols, just on the basis of his history, man. I've learned the ways of PA, Will, okay?
War criminal, Pat Adams.
Kayla, I see you snickering right now.
am.
No.
I know. I've heard some stories.
I'd rather have Angel Hernandez call a football game. I'd rather have Jerome Boger do
I was
a
gonna say
baseball
Boger.
game. I'd let Jerome Boger umpire a Major League Baseball game before I would sign up for Pat Adams calling his sport of college basketball.
In big games, though, too. But this is the matchup right here that you want and love. And as much as Bruce say about good things about the Vols, Auburn is just as good, too. The perimeter and keeping our bigs out of trouble is going to be big. This is an ADU type of game, too, to where if you want to control the pace tonight, you start with him and you back that up with Tobe Awaka, too. I'm into that game, man. We spoke about this yesterday with Savage. This is where when you need a shot and you need to be able to free up your offense, this is where Santi Vescovi has to be able to come into play, too. I did all of that without even mentioning Zakai, Dalton Connect, Josiah, and the rest of the crew, too. These are the 3 guys that I'm counting on in a game like this.
This is the type of basketball I absolutely love, especially this time of year when we're starting to get that itch for March Madness. Obviously, we've got the SEC tournament here in Nashville before that, where I think we'll see some good games too. But this is the type of game that everybody who is preparing for that time of year wants to watch, because I think you're going to see 2 incredible teams going face-to-face in an arena that you guys and Ramon said, last week, just being proud of the fan that are there and just the atmosphere that they are doing and giving for this Tennessee team that has just been really successful the last few years. But this is the game you've got to win. And I think this is the game that gives you a lot of confidence. I know that Bruce Pearl has his eye on Dalton Connect, and he says, hey, He's going to get his. You just don't want him to go off. And that's why I think it's important for Tennessee in this game to continue to have those guys come off the bench. Just every single point matters in this type of game. I think it's going to go down the wire if you want to ask me, but I'm here for it.
Let's play Name That Line. What is the Vegas line of Tennessee Auburn?
Ooh.
Half a point.
Half a point.
Yeah.
Okay. Kayla?
3?
Robert Walsh?
I'll go 3.5.
It opened at 4.5.
Okay.
And so many people bet Tennessee that it is now 6.5 towards the Vols.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
I was going to get it at 5.5, but I don't think I'm confident enough about 6. Ken Palm projects a 3-point Tennessee win. 76-73 is what Ken Palm projects.
Hey, Will, I'm just going to preface this. Don't ever ask me about a line, okay? 'Cause I think you realize
Unless
that
you're
when
at the barber shop and you're getting lined
Line
up.
dancing, maybe.
We'll just leave the lines to your barber, Ramon. All right?
Yeah.
Please, man. I'm talking. I'll line dance before I set a Vegas line. You hear me? You will ask me.
Ramon will do-si-do, but he's not going to go to his sportsbook app to bet on a line.
How many times I got to tell you
I
I
love
play
it.
ball,
I
okay?
love
Swing your
it.
partner round and round, Ramon Foster.
He ain't
That's
afraid
all
to
I'm
admit.
telling you, man.
Ain't no
Those are-
gambling in Ripley, Tennessee, anyway.
No.
Feel me,
least
Will.
not
We
for
got
you.
it. We got it in Tennessee, but I don't know if it's met Ripley yet, man. Believe it or not. Get it?
Honestly, with Auburn too, they might be down a guy.
Yeah, Jalen Williams is a game-time decision, according to Bruce Pearl yesterday. John Rothstein tweeting that out, saying that Jalen Williams will travel to Knoxville. Bruce Pearl saying he is a game-time decision, has not played in 11 days since that nasty fall he took against Kentucky. Averages 13 points per game and 4.5 rebounds per game. He is an important player for Auburn to have. I do not think Tennessee will lose to a Jalen Williams-less Auburn team. I think if Auburn wins, they're going to have him in.
If Auburn
I
wins,
think so,
that's
too.
great,
My
man.
uneducated opinion. 615-737-1045. Did the Titans tip their hand about the number 7 overall pick yesterday? We'll talk left tackle versus wide receiver and protecting Will Levis next. RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast on 104.5 The Zone, 615-737-1045. How you jump in? Were the Titans lying to us yesterday? That's what we want to ask the people. Do you believe Bryan Callahan and Rand Carthon when they say, we want playmakers and we're going to emphasize guys who can put the ball in the paint more so than the big guys blocking for our quarterback? Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, and Robert Walsh with you. We'll answer that question here over the next 20 minutes before Rhett Bryan joins us at 9 o'clock from Indy this morning. Let's go to the phones now. Let's go to Dustin in Laverne first up. What's up, Dustin?
Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you're having a good morning. I just wanted to pretty much address the wide receiver room. I kind of was thinking in my head, and if we would use our number 7 pick, let's just say Rome was still there, I think you have to get that guy. He's got speed, strength, he's got size. He just seems like the total package. And then if you got someone like him, you still got DeAndre Hopkins, and you might be able to get someone like Tyler Boyd, not too expensive. If you get him under like $20 million, then, you'd have a pretty good little wide receiver cast going on there. So just an idea for all that. And if Rome does end up being the truth, we should just call him Doomsday. So I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, Dustin.
I like that nickname.
The issue I have with Tyler Boyd is if you are going for more speed, specifically in the slot, that's not him. I don't dislike Tyler Boyd, but at the NFL Combine, Tyler Boyd ran a 4.58 40. So I still think Tyler Boyd, although I like that addition potentially for the Titans, does not solve your speed problem out of the slot, where I still think you could go for a Calvin Ridley or a Hollywood Brown as well and pay the $20 million premium for a wide receiver that runs in the 4.3s or low 4.4s.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Will, too. I see what he's going for in terms of the Tyler Boyd pickup, because I do think it's a good pickup for a team. But yeah, I think you have to have speed. I don't think they're joking around or leading us astray when they say they need to have speed. I think they're going to address that somehow, whether that be in the draft or in free agency. And on his thoughts on Rome Odunze, look, he's one of my favorites in the draft in terms of wide receivers. I think this guy can do it all. I think he is a difference maker, but I think that if they don't have the tackles available, they pick a guy like Rome Odunze. I don't know if they pass over a wide receiver in that spot, but I still feel like you got to go with the tackle if they're there.
The thing to me about a guy like Tyler Boyd is this. He always finds a way to get open and get positive yards, too. Like, I know the combine numbers of his 40, 4.5, whatever the case may be. Like, the differences between a 4.5 and a 4.4 on the football field is slight. Like, I don't think it's much to it. There is a such thing as game speed versus, field speed as far as you just simply run it. I don't put much stock into that unless the guy's just proven to be a slug. Tyler Boyd, to me, isn't a slug. He's an efficient pass catcher when it comes down to what he's capable of doing. And that's where I will lay on. Like, again, football speed, time speed is two totally different avenues to me. I like the fact that you can have a pass catcher and a weapon. That's what this team needs more than anything. So if Tyler Boyd is a guy they decide to bring in, I ain't opposed to it, just on the basis of he can move the chains for you if he ain't having drops and all those types of things.
100%. And I totally agree that 4.58 versus a 4.45 on a football field is not a massive difference. But I am concerned that you bring in a guy like that who is a technician as far as a route runner over the middle and in tight spaces. If you don't have a deep threat wide receiver in this offense, tight spaces get tighter. And how much of Tyler Boyd's success in Cincinnati is because you have to give Jamar Chase and T. Higgins so much attention, right? Like, Tyler Boyd to me is a solution. He is not the solution at wide receiver.
Yeah, I'd probably be more concerned with probably the age that he is, about to turn 30 more than in his playmaking. But
Right.
I like him. I'm going to be real with you.
Right. He's a good player.
And he got his yeah, he's a good player. We'll leave it at that. He's
Really
a good
good player.
player. I wouldn't be opposed of it. I'd turn my nose up at it if you decide to sign a guy like him.
So let's go back to what Bryan Callahan said on the Buck Rising show yesterday morning. This was, to me, the most significant thing that came out of combine conversations with Titans executives yesterday.
One of the things I've always said when asked about this debate is I had landed at some point in my career, usually in Denver is usually what I liken back to when we had Demaryius Thomas, Wes Welker, Julius Thomas, and Emmanuel Sanders. Obviously, we had a great quarterback that was at the end of his career, but those guys in one-on-one situations could win when you needed them to win in a tight moment at the end of a game, all those things. And so that's always resonated with me. And when we had a chance to pick a player like Jamar, I always just thought back to what that offense looked like, and that was sort of the vision of what we were trying to look like in Cincinnati with an elite quarterback, elite processor, to find guys that could go win and separate. And the debate was always, well, you got to protect the quarterback, obviously, or you can't throw the ball. And we didn't necessarily believe that. We felt like if you got great players on the perimeter, they can go win versus press coverage, and all the teams that are trying to condense everything and rush the passer, if you can win quick, you can throw quick. So that was our philosophy in that moment. Obviously, Jamar Chase coming out, premier player. There was no doubt that he was going to be an all-pro player. There was no doubt that Penei Sewell was going to be an all-pro style tackle. There was no question on either one of those players, right. Their talent level and how they would fit in the NFL. I think that's unique. I don't know that you're ever going to get in a spot where both of those guys
different year
are that caliber of player where there's going to be one that's going to be better than the other, and that sort of makes a decision for you at the end of the day. But I've always felt like today's offenses, I think you still have to protect the quarterback, but to score points, you got to have guys that can score points. And I've always felt that. I've always believed that. That doesn't mean that we're just going to automatically take a receiver.
You're giving people chest tightness,
yeah,
Bryan.
no, it doesn't. I don't mean to say that. I'm just philosophically, I've always felt like the more talented receivers you have, the better chance you have to score points. But that being said, we are in year one here versus year three. We were in Cincinnati. We had a young Joe Burrow already played a year. And we were trying to give him as many weapons as we could. So I think the situations, while the position comparison is similar, I think the situations ultimately are pretty different. So how that shakes out, we'll see. But there's good receivers and good tackles that'll be available at our pick.
I have a theory on why Bryan Callahan is saying this so clearly. But before I get to that, what do you guys think about that comment? And are the Titans being totally honest with us, or are they trying to mislead us?
There's always a little sport in talking openly like this when they have to talk in these scenarios. I think most head coaches are here or will speak at some capacity. It's super early in this process. Free agency hadn't jumped off yet. Saying stuff like that could somewhat leave you in a position to where you're exposed by saying too much on what you really want to do. It's just like one of those things where don't tell people your ideas because they may actually steal them and get rich off of them. You know what I'm saying? So that's I ain't going to say they're lying to them. I think scenarios have to set themselves up to where a receiver presents itself that you didn't think that. I don't know what the quarterback run is going to be like. The first three teams need quarterbacks essentially. Carolina, Washington, and New England. If you go 1, 2, 3 there, your board completely changes as far as the positions. And the wide receiver that you want, I don't know if it's Marvin Harrison Jr., if he's able to slide in a spot like that. But that opportunity might present itself that a guy that you didn't think was going to be there could be there at 7. So I'll entertain it. Do I believe him? Nah.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about it yesterday. I mean, it clearly stole the headlines, or at least it was one of the biggest headlines that you took yesterday from the conversations that Ran Carthon had and Bryan Callahan had with the media. And I think there is some truth to it, guys, just for the fact that Bryan Callahan truly believes in his type of offense. I mean, he said his time in Denver taught him a lot. He was actually, I think, with the Broncos for a minute where they, before they got Peyton Manning, then they got Peyton Manning, then they won a Super Bowl. So he kind of went through, the things that he saw there that he really liked out of the wide receivers and what they were able to give their quarterbacks. And I truly believe that he wants to be able to give Will Levis as much of a playmaking, sheet of players that he can, because Will Levis is going to only be better if he has better weapons. And I truly feel like he is a quarterback coach, right? He is a guy that is going to put his quarterback in the best position to win. And he knew taking this job, Will Levis has a ways to go. He's not necessarily Joe Burrow in year 2, like he mentioned, when they decided to take Jamar Chase. So I think there is some truth to this, because I feel like Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors are special. And I know he said nobody compares to Jamar Chase. Well, Jamar Chase is his own player. But if they truly feel like a Rome Odunze is special and can be a difference maker for, Will Levis, I think that they pick him. I think they take the wide receiver. In my opinion, though, guys, I am sticking with the left tackle. If you've got Joe Alt, if you've got Olu Fashanu there, you have to start in terms of what's in front of Will Levis. And right now, it's a bunch of scraps.
So let's play some hypotheticals. Let's say Marvin Harrison Jr. is gone, because there's no way Marvin Harrison Jr. gets to 7. I think we all agree that if Marvin Harrison Jr. by an act of God is at 7, you should pick him. So that's kind of the trump card. But let's not even entertain that possibility. Let's say you pick between Malik Neighbors and Joe Alt. Both are available at number 7. Give me a name. Who do you pick?
Joe Alt.
Kayla?
Joe Alt.
Let's say it's Olu Fashanu versus Malik Neighbors. Who do you pick?
Fashanu.
Kayla?
I'm still going for Shanu.
Let's say it's Amarius Mims versus Rome Odunze. Third
Odunze.
tackle.
Doomsday.
I think that's the part where this changes, because to me, I'm curious, and this isn't my theory, I'll get to that in a minute, but I'm curious, though, if Bryan Callahan talks about, we had this idea in Cincy that we didn't need to perfectly protect the quarterback because we wanted guys who could win one-on-one in man coverage. What's the biggest difference between Joe Burrow and Will Levis? It's athleticism. Could the Titans gamble on the fact that Will Levis can protect himself as a mobile quarterback in the pocket more than Joe Burrow, who is more of a stable platform thrower? Is that part of the equation for Bryan Callahan to say, look, we don't need as much protection for my guy because I'm going to teach my guy how to protect himself and stay healthy? Can you get behind that?
I can see a world where that exists. But it's also a factor of staying in the pocket long enough to know when you have to escape to, long enough to let the play develop to where you don't automatically abort mission every single time a rusher's in your face. That's the only issue I have with believing in him. My protection of Will Levis, to me, I think turns to the type of plays that you're calling for him. If protection up front, as far as the offensive line is concerned, isn't that good. That's my contingency on trusting and Will Levis to get rid of the ball, is how you formulate an offense to get the ball out of his hand.
And I think Will Levis, too, we're talking about Joe Burrow versus Will Levis, and you mentioned the athleticism. And I know, Will Levis last year did some really incredible things where it made us all say, in terms of using his legs or doing some things that might be a little risky. And I think those are the things that Bryan Callahan wants to fix a little bit in terms of, okay, you got to keep the body right no matter what. I think he wants him to have a little time back there, but when he needs to use his athleticism, he can use it. It's all about finding the balance there. And that's why I think no matter what, you've got to have your line more stout than it is, because let's say an injury happens to one of your top wide receivers, right? I mean, you got to make sure that line is able to be consistent, be able to be that line for years to come, and you're not always just interchanging parts. I just feel like you have to start with the line up front, you guys, at some point, and it's hard to say I'm going to draft another offensive lineman because it's boring, but it's the state of the Titans right now. It is what it is.
I think Bryan Callahan will have learned from the fact that Joe Burrow had season-ending injuries early in the season twice while they were together in Cincinnati. Here's my theory, guys. I think the Titans learned their lesson last season, being too obvious about what they wanted to do. The Titans publicly liked C.J. Stroud. Houston then made it more of a point to lie about wanting C.J. Stroud, then they went and took C.J. Stroud. I think Rand Carthon in the building last year learned their lesson. The Titans learned their lesson about being too loose with what they wanted to do and where they wanted to go. And now they're telling us something that is sending us on a wild goose chase. I could be wrong. This could be, look, they really do value wide receiver, and maybe they love Rome Odunze enough to make him the guy. I think that is completely within the realm of possibility. But I genuinely believe that they were too loose with their strategy last year, and it cost them. And now they are not going to be as honest with us. And Rand Carthon is telling Bryan, hey, lean on what you guys did in Cincy. Mm-hmm. We can send these guys on a goose chase about precedent and about what you guys did. This ain't Cincy. Will Levis is not Joe Burrow. The Titans are not in a scenario with a number 1 overall pick quarterback to go ahead and get the shiny weapons. They need Will Levis to finish a full season because 2 years in a row, the Titans have had, 3 different starting quarterbacks start back-to-back seasons?
Yeah.
Between Malik Willis, Will Levis, Ryan Tannehill, Joshua Dobbs. In 2022 and in 2023, you had 3 different starting quarterbacks start a game. You have not had a quarterback start and finish the season healthy since 2021 in two-tone blue. And if you do not correctly address the offensive line, it's going to be a 3rd straight year. If you go the shiny wide receiver and do the fun pick that puts butts in the seats, then Will Levis is going to get hurt again. And you're going to be right back to square one again about do we have the backup quarterback and is Dobbs back and can Malik play? I don't want to watch Malik Willis play quarterback for this team. I want to watch Will Levis start week 1 and start week 18. And I think the Titans know that.
Can I say one thing too about the offensive line and Bill Callahan specifically? Because I think he's going to have a say in whatever lineman they decide to pick at any point of this draft, because I feel like they got to draft him at some point. And I feel like if Bill Callahan sees it, Alt and if Ashanu in that spot and is like, we cannot pass up on one of these guys. Like, if a man knows offensive line, we know it's Ramon Foster first, but after that is Bill Callahan, and he's the line coach right now for the Tennessee Titans. He's already got to do a ton of developing on this line, guys. Don't you feel like if he has one of the best available in the draft, he's going to be like, hey, Bryan, we need to do this?
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating pre-draft process. I will lean also into last year's conversation because that draft night, that conversation of moving up for C.J. Stroud, I feel like was more real than everybody knew or everybody, understood. It's fascinating. Like I said earlier when we spoke about it in the sixes, the idea that they're sports and saying stuff in the media. I do think C.J. Stroud was he was crapped on some because the teams wanted him that much to see how far he would slide to see if you can get him. And then, of course, you back that up with the fact that the Titans move up in the second round to get Will Levis. So the conversation, I think, was more real and more close to actually happening than we'll ever know. I love to get that answer from Rand or somebody in the front office, too. Like, were you guys serious about moving up, or was it just rumors, if we can get the truth, Well,
they did take a quarterback, right? So it makes you think that was on their mind.
I think they loved C.J. Stroud. I think they wanted to move up to get him, and I think they were too obvious about it and made Houston look elsewhere to make other deals and ultimately lost out on now the best quarterback in the division. And they learned a hard lesson last season in being over-eager in their pursuit of the top quarterback in the draft. 100%. And I think now they're not going to be as honest about what they want. But what did we say a couple weeks ago? When we started the draft process the week after the Super Bowl, you usually end up taking the guy in the first mock draft, right? Like, regardless of, outside of the injuries, and sometimes guys kill their draft stock in interviews or in 40-yard dash and all these things. But, more often than not, it's the guy that you pick in your first mock from the local perspective that ends up being the guy. Because now we're going to hear lies. We're going to overthink it. We're going to believe some things that aren't true. We're going to overlook some things that are true. But we all thought Peter Skronsky was the guy at the beginning of the draft process last year. And who did they go with? Peter. And what did Rand Carthon tell us afterwards? This was an obvious and easy pick. You know what Joe Alt is? An obvious and easy pick if he is available to you at 7.
Yep.
615-737-1045 is our number. Coming up, there is new reporting about Tennessee versus the NCAA and something Tennessee did in December 2022 to prepare for the legal battle they just had with the NCAA. Details next.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson here with certified arborist and our good friend Dean Glasscock of Save a Tree. And Dean, I know we've had some nice weather here lately, but the storms, we're probably going to see plenty of them here in a month or so in March. What can you tell us about how you guys can help with that particular thing in terms of your trees and shrubs?
Yeah, that's right. Good morning, Kayla. Good morning, everybody. That's right. Pick up the phone. I say it all the time, 615-299-9999. Give us a call. We'll come out. We'll give you a free consultation and just let you know exactly how safe your trees are around your home. What does that mean? Well, you may have codominant stems. That means 2 leaders on a tree that you're afraid might split in a high wind. And if you have those old mature trees in your yard, we can help you preserve them. So it's all about the clients we're looking for are people that value their trees and shrubs around their home. You know, don't forget we also do the plant health care program. We're taking care of lawns now as well. So 615-299-9999 for a complimentary consultation. We want to serve you. So remember, we're also an accredited company with TCIA. I could go on and on about the services we do. So we're the real deal. I'm super proud of that. Been around for almost 30 years now. So nothing's changed on our end except just giving great service. So give us a call, 615-299-9999, 24-hour service if there's storms as well. So y'all take care. Thanks, Kayla.
Thank you, Dean. It's Save a Tree. You can go visit them at SAVATREE.com.
Wrapping up the third quarter of RKW, Ramon, Kayla, and Will is brewed by 8th and Roasted. In 10 minutes, we'll be joined by the executive producer of Titans Radio live in Indy. He is the one and only Rhett, Bryan. Coming up in just a few. 615-737-1045 is our number. We'll get to this news story from Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel on Nico Iamaleava in just a moment. But first, let's go to the phones where Ryan is in Gallatin. What's up, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, playmakers are super important. But if you get that last tackle right, he affects every play for the next 10 years, and we cannot mess this up. We have to get that line to give everybody a little more time to run or throw or whatever. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan, and I was chatting with some people in the F&M Bank chat, and look, I think sometimes those big names can catch us, and suck us in, and I get it. Some of those guys are going to be incredible with the Malik Neighbors and the Roman Duzes, but there has been some real big-time wide receivers that have gone in the second round, right? I mean, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp went later than that. So those are just examples of you can really find some great wide receivers with a second-round pick. And, guys, this class for wide receivers is freaking deep.
It is. Certainly is. Appreciate the call. Ryan? So there is new reporting from Adam Sparks on Nico Iamaleava that I think is very interesting and tells a good story about Tennessee and their ability to protect themselves. Documents that have been obtained by the Knoxville News Sentinel and Adam Sparks say that Tennessee was preparing to fight the NCAA for Nico Iamaleava's NIL rights in December 2022. This was before Nico Iamaleava was ever a Tennessee football player, and the same law firm that helped Tennessee investigate itself on the Jeremy Pruitt case, they were also being given a second invoice. There was a second set of invoices for December 2022 to February 2023, and a UT Athletic spokesman has confirmed to the Knoxville News Sentinel that a law firm was working on the threat of a future NIL probe 14 months ago. So Tennessee, essentially what they did with this situation with the NCAA, as soon as he signed his national letter of intent, university-paid attorneys were preparing to defend his rights to NIL before the NCAA even ever made him an official player in college football. That is interesting and intelligent because the legal battle just happened and Tennessee won the injunction, in part because they were literally preparing for this fight the second the guy signed his national letter of intent.
I think you just got to be realistic in what this deal was, though, at the time. Like, the number that was thrown out was 8 million, right? And for a guy out of high school from the West Coast that had no family ties to Tennessee, Tennessee's been middle of the road as far as playing ball and trying to find that 5-star quarterback and how it was negotiated, how you went about doing it. Those types of things, you had to have known somebody was going to come swooping, either one of your rivals, which has happened before, and on the opposite side, the Tennessee-Alabama fiasco, right, for the Memphis situation with the prospect that was down there, right? This has happened before when you make these type of moves and disrupt the flow of operation. Smart move, understandable, and I'll even say this too, as somebody that, as a team that's in the SEC or even USC, right, in Southern Cal, I would be asking questions also when you have this type of story break with NIL with a guy not from your state. You have to take these measurements, these carefully thought out measurements to make sure you're protected. So smart. Sucks to spend that type of money on lawyers, but you got to protect yourself in a very new NIL era, and it was even newer back then. That's a couple years back, that is.
All I got to say is UT, Pac-Man, greater than the NCAA.
Fair. Robert Walsh tells me in my ear this was a negotiation.
Oh, yeah, baby.
I wasn't going to drop that out here for everybody else.
Please say it.
They were good at negotiating and negotiating.
That's right.
Look at that.
That's right. You've been hanging out with me way too long.
That's Rob.
What do you
I'm
think,
gonna give it. That's a 1 out of 5. I like the thought.
Since when have we rated things out of 5?
Yeah, that's because I don't
That means
want
it's
to
a 2 out of 10. Yeah.
Come on. Look
Kind of
at
like
the
Ramon's
Treylon
bets
Oh, my
over 3
goodness.
weeks.
Oh.
Hell.
See, this is why I threw that up, Rob, and I'll use LeBron James dunking out when I knew you have a comeback.
Bang.
Soft is not in your game,
From
okay?
December 2022 to February 2023, Tennessee paid $84,000 in legal fees for general advising from BSK attorneys on the future NIL case. During that same period, it also paid $86,000 in legal fees for their work on the Pruitt case. So essentially, Tennessee, for about a 2-month span, spent the same amount of money getting ready for a fight to protect Nico that they did spending money to investigate Jeremy Pruitt and fire him for free. That is literally playing chess while everyone else is just trying to assemble their checkers board and raise the money to have NIL.
Yeah.
615-737-1045 is our number. Coming up, Rhett, Bryan at Titans Radio joins us talking Combine next.
Hey, it is Kayla Anderson. This time of the year, what are we at? The end of February? Can't believe we're already at this point. But we have March. It's coming around the corner. That means you're probably going to get out a little more, maybe go on a run or a walk, and that makes you feel a little bit better. But it has been a couple 2 long months here in Middle Tennessee, so maybe your body is feeling a little down. You don't have the energy. Maybe you're feeling bloated all the time. Well, did you know toxins build up in your body? That suppresses your immunity and your ability to absorb nutrients and fight illnesses. That excess weight can also cause you to prematurely age and carry around some extra weight. So that is why you need to change your body's oil once in a while and try the Youthful Cleanse by Daily Defense. And they do a great job. It's a simple cleanse, no need to do the juicing thing or change your diet completely. It is a quick weekend thing if you want it to be, or you could make it a 2-week thing, whatever your body feels like it needs. You can get yours today and learn more about the Youthful Cleanse at membersnutrition.com. They also have a great selection of vitamins. I've been saying on here, I've been taking the probiotic, thinking about doing some other ones there. So make sure that at this time of the year especially, you're taking control of your health, taking control of your life. Try the Youthful Cleanse today at membersnutrition.com.
What the heck's going on? 901, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. The Chiefs planning on using their franchise tag on cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, per Jeremy Fowler yesterday. The plan is to look to lock him up, but if they cannot get a long-term deal done, they will trade him around town. See who can dig up the right kind of compensation to land L'Jarius Sneed. And there is precedent for that in Kansas City, as the Chiefs did that back in 2019 when they franchise tagged defensive end Dee Ford and flipped him to San Francisco for a second-round pick. Baltimore, on the other hand, doing a little different with their franchise tag target, as Eric DeCosta, the general manager of the Ravens, said yesterday they would simply tag Justin Madubuike if a long-term deal cannot be reached by Tuesday. Falcons are releasing former Titans tight end Jonnu Smith. Smith caught 50 passes for 532 yards and 3 touchdowns last season. The move frees up about $6.5 million while carrying $2.5 million in dead cap into 2024. And in college basketball last night, number 7 Kansas falls at home to BYU 76-68. Vanderbilt takes down Arkansas 85-82, and number 16 Kentucky escapes Mississippi State 91-89. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour of the show. The fourth quarter of the show starts right now on your, as our friend Ron Slay would say, hump day edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast. I can't do that or anything half as well as Ron Slay does, but we might as well try. Ramon Foster is in Indy. Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, myself, Will Bowling here in Nashville. And we are joined right now by the one, the only, the executive producer of Titans Radio. He is Rhett Bryan from Indianapolis. What's up, Rhett? How are you?
Hello, ladies and gents. How are we this morning?
Hey, Rhett, we're good.
Loving life.
Are you having fun?
Good. Yeah, having a lot of fun. You know how much I love the combine and talking to these prospects and just kind of seeing everybody go through everything and just seeing who's milling about and who's available. And in fact, I just stood for the entire podium portion for Junior Colson, who obviously went to Ravenwood High School and 3-year guy, Michigan national champion, one of 18 guys from Michigan here, a combine record. But Junior Colson, what a nice young man. And of course, his story is well documented. There's a terrible earthquake in Haiti in 2010, and a local family there in the area went on a mission trip and kind of connected with him, immediately started paperwork to adopt him. And 2 years later, his first airplane ride was to Nashville. And he lost his parents and all of that stuff. And but a guy that early on molded him into where he is today is evident. And I thought it was interesting because Jim White asked him, did you ever go to Titans games as a kid? He said, I wasn't into football when I was younger. And it would make sense because he was a soccer guy. Soccer, I say it all the time, soccer rules the world and football rules North America.
Yes.
But he didn't really get into football until he started playing it, and that's where the love of the game developed. But great session with him, a lot of great young guys here today, and looking forward to more as the week rolls on.
Love that, Rhett. And I love this tweet from Sam Monson of Pro Football Focus an hour ago, who says, at this point, I'm adjusting my draft rankings for which players speak closest to the microphone at the podium so everyone can hear them. Can you confirm that there is a player speaking into the microphone who is rocketing up draft boards at this point?
There are several guys who would get credit for that. I mean, some guys, you got to realize some of these guys are from smaller schools and smaller programs and didn't have a lot of media exposure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you an idea. The kid that we really enjoyed talking to at the Senior Bowl, Jalix Hunt from Houston Christian, he walked right up we were his first interview as him doing an official Titans podcast.
Nice.
And he walked right up, and he's been comfortable. And I'll post a video later, but he was going around to each of the podium assignments after his was done and was actually recording and asking, hey, tell me about Jalix Hunt. What do you think about that prospect? And it was a lot of his teammates that were in Mobile together at Senior Bowl. He did that with Marshawn Nealand, the edge rusher from Central Michigan. He did it with Adisa Isaac from Penn State. It was pretty funny, just kind of him milling in the pile with all of us down there, kind of looking and talking to all these prospects.
You know why I like that type of stuff, though, Rhett? Because in a new world that you're about to get introduced to, self-confidence goes a long way. Being able to break outside of your shell like a guy like him who's going to be a dude that catches on in the league at some point in time, being comfortable in a space like this says a lot about what you can expect from a player. You know, the will is there. You know what I'm saying? As far as being in this new space of being an NFL pro, I like that type of stuff, man. You know, you need a little edge sometimes. We spoke about that last night at dinner, just saying you need a little edge on teams here and there. You know what I'm saying? And having a guy that understands his role and his place as a young pro is some cool stuff to me.
I think it is one of the things that would be a takeaway from a team doing an informal or formal interview with a player. If the guy knows the X's and O's and you test that part of it, but yet he has a personality and a little bit of humor to go with that, I think that would be a box I would check. Just because I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, the guy that was so funny at the podium was Damian Pierce, the Houston Texans running back. He's got a great personality and got a little of that dog mentality and, confident in himself. And you can see some of these guys are a little stiffer than others and not as comfortable. But the ones that are from bigger programs or just have that outward personality, I think that's huge in this process, just trying to get to know a prospect.
Or directly in Nashville right now, Tajay Spears. Yeah. He holds that same type of personality, man, that showed to benefit the Titans last year. From a young guy leadership role, I like that type of stuff.
I do, and I go back to when somebody asked Tajay about playing on Monday Night Football with the Dolphins, and he goes, dude, I'm excited every time I go out there. I'm from the hood, man. Yeah. He said, everything is up from here. He said, I get excited. We're playing on Thursday afternoon. It would be a big deal. And that's the kind of honesty and the humor that you appreciate. And so then he becomes more relatable to the fan base, and you're just like, okay, I can't help but like this guy. And he isn't an outward talker as some of these other guys that we're talking about, but when you get to know him a little bit, some of that personality comes out.
Facts.
Rhett Bryan of Titans Radio with us from the table in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine. Rhett, what stood out to you from Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon? I know that's a broad question because they said a lot, but from your interactions with both of them, was there one thing in particular that you felt was significant?
Well, I think the piece that's gotten the cut that's gotten the most traction is to talk about what they do at 7. And he didn't, of course, he's not going to commit to anything at this time of the year at all, but how he leaned more towards an offensive weapon that has his hands on the football, and that there are other ways to protect the quarterback and to ensure and gird up the offensive line. And so everybody immediately wants to go, okay, do you think it's Malik Neighbors? Do you think it's Rome Odunze? So we started talking amongst ourselves about this, and like, what if it's not a wide receiver? What if it's another playmaker that makes plays with the ball in his hands? And we were talking about, Brock Bowers from Georgia, and it's like that could be, if we're trying to read the tea leaves, that could be a possibility. Look, so much has got to happen between now and then. We haven't talked about free agency. None of that has happened. We're starting to see franchise tags put on or off. And it all depends on what happens in those first 6 spots. You're going to see quarterbacks go. You're going to see wide receivers go. And everything is like, I still say, what does Atlanta do at number 8? Because if they don't get Kirk Cousins or they don't trade for Justin Fields, there will be teams that will call Rand Carthon to leapfrog at 8 to get the next guy past the first 3. And certainly if one of the first 3 are still there. Mm-hmm. But, and by the way, saw Marvin Harrison Sr. and Jr. last night in the hotel. Jr. is, he's a lot bigger prospect than Pops. That's a grown man right there.
I imagine Marvin Harrison Sr. telling his son what my dad always tells me: "You're not taller than me. You're just always on a hill. You will never be taller than me." No son is ever bigger than their dad.
Well,
Ever.
I think he's already posturing by not testing here and not doing a pro day by showing, hey, look, man, I'm good. I'm top tier. I'm just going to work on the craft as I go into this chapter. So I think that's an interesting approach because I don't remember that ever happening. I remember players doing kind of a half approach to a pro day and not testing here, but not doing the both. So.
And Rhett, I would also say this too, and I wonder is your opinion. This having guys like him and some of the quarterbacks say, "I'm not going to run, throw, or stuff," it doesn't minimize this event here, the combine. You got to be a certain type of player to say and do that type of stuff.
Well, here's the other part of it too. Yeah, you do. You have to be a top-tier guy. And
Deion Sanders, when he ran out of the stadium after running his 40, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, them types.
Right. And look, Coach Mack has taught us all well in that evaluators, GMs, coaches in this, it is as much about the medical information that you glean through the checks and rechecks. And some of these guys are going to have a long wait with that stuff with a myriad of injuries. And then the other is getting to know the person a little bit. And, those couple of things. And sure, a guy that tests well or whatever, but they have all the access to the GPS stuff to show how fast they ran in a game situation. They don't necessarily have to see a 40. Yeah, it's good if they can see another test in front of their eyes, but it's more than just running a 40 or a vertical leap or a 3-cone drill.
Rhett, Bryan at Titans Radio with us live from Indy at the NFL Combine. We'll continue the discussion with him when we come back. See if there are any particular players he is most interested in hearing from today as linebackers begin to make the rounds at the NFL Combine and interviews this morning. And the cut from Rand Carthon about his team, including Chad Brinker, guessing the salary cap and being right was particularly interesting. We'll get Rhett's thoughts on that as well as we continue on your Wednesday morning in the fourth quarter of RKW.
It's a big Saturday night in Smashville as the Preds continue a 5-game homestand. On Saturday, March 2nd, see the Preds take on the Colorado Avalanche at 5 p.m. at the Bridgestone Arena. This game will also be rivalry college night with fans from Alabama, Auburn showing up. Their pride as the college theme night series with themed tickets including a branded college and Preds hat. Get tickets for the game at NashvillePredators.com/tickets. So never miss any game when you secure season tickets also, which just went on sale for the 24-25 season. This year, the Preds are giving you a jersey with your tickets, plus a ton of other great benefits. So lock in those seats at NashvillePredators.com/season tickets.
Wednesday morning in RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast, Ramon, Kayla, and Will. With Ramon Foster at Indy, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling here in Nashville. Rhett, Bryan at the table with us from the NFL Combine live here for hour number 4. And Inky Johnson coming up in just about a half hour. Rhett, wanted to play you this answer from Rand Carthon yesterday when talking to Buck Rising about guessing the salary cap and being right. It's interesting watching so many people be surprised about the cap number and hear this from Rand Carthon to Buck about them not really being surprised at all.
No, we were very, very close. We were very close. Myself, Vin, and Chad, A-Rob, we had the conversation probably 4 days prior, and we put our projection, and even looking at the projection we put was like, that might be a little high.
Yeah.
And then I'll say this much: we were single digits, so we weren't 30 million off or anything like that. We were single digits away, which I was like, damn, we were, pretty close. And so it's a gift and a curse because it puts us in an even better position, but the teams that were a lot further away from us, they're now a little closer.
Yeah, the marketplace is more open for everybody.
So it puts them well positioned. But, like I said, we have to exercise patience, right? And I think I kind of talked about it somewhere. I can't remember. It's like when we were young and you get money from the tooth fairy and you got the money in your pocket and you go to the store and you want to try to buy everything that's in the store. And so my parents would say the money is burning a hole in your pocket, and so you have to resist that temptation because, again, you want to be well-positioned, in what we call cap casualties, when some of these, veteran guys become free, and you want to be well-positioned to bring in some of those guys as well, later in the process. And so you have to resist that urge of going out and spending too soon. Hopefully we're past the injury bug here. Of guys, but that kind of carries over into the season. You want to be well positioned to have operating costs, in case you have to take on some of those, placing guys on IR, having some of those salaries and bringing guys in. You want to be well positioned to have those things. And last year we kind of consistently were in the top 5, in available cap space. So we want to kind of be in that place, forever moving forward.
Rhett, I love that answer from Rand Carthon, and I think Titans fans should be excited that the team was not surprised by the big cap number that came out Friday.
Well, and you've got a lot of smart fellas looking over the numbers, too. Vin Marino is the Vin that he speaks of, who has been the cap man there for a long time. I think it's his year 17 for him. And, of course, Chad Brinker, the president of football operations. And so, anyway, a lot of good, experienced eyes and folks looking at this. And so I'm not real smart with math, but that tells me they thought it was somewhere in the 250s then if they're single digits. So their evaluation there was pretty much spot on. But I think the more interesting thing out of all of that is we want to remain in the top 5 in cap available money going forward in perpetuity pretty much. That's interesting. Now, his tooth fairy analogy is correct because my parents would say the same thing. That money's burning a hole in your pocket. He might have left, and of course I'm old enough. He might have left me, $2 or whatever. And I'm trying to go buy $80 worth of football cards or something. I don't know, whatever, and a big league chewing gum or something. So I think that is the more interesting out of it because listen, with the smart guys they've got working over this whole thing. No surprise to me that they were in the window of what was released at the $30 million more number than what that $30 more million year over year. It's amazing to see this thing jump like this though, and he's right. Even it puts them in a better position, but the curse part of it is the people that were tied against the cap. It's given them some relief, quite a bit of relief because. I think that what we saw most of the season in 2023 was going to be in the 240. So we're talking like $11-12 million more than what was anticipated. And I think that's why we've already started to see the flurry of reports of teams that are up against it, like New Orleans, restructuring deals and things. It's like, okay, now we can do this, which tells me they're smart people. We're also looking at evaluations of the cap and going, okay, here's plan A, plan B, C, D, depending on what this number is.
So,
I was just going to say the other thing that's fascinating about this too is he mentions the cap casualties of other teams for the post June 1st cuts.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you availability that your roster's not set until training camp starts up too. Just my opinion on him dropping that little nugget right there.
No, he's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Just expanding on that, Rhett, when it comes to free agency, because obviously that's coming first. What's the fine line then? Because he's clearly saying, Ren Carthon, that he doesn't want to spend it all in one place. And you've got to be, very smart when it comes to having a lot of money. So you see some of these guys that are out here in free agency, and it's tempting, right? I mean, some of these guys you would really want to add to your team, but at what cost? And knowing that, you don't have a third-round pick. You can't just fix everything in the draft. So where is that fine line, Rhett?
Well, Kayla, and to your point, I mean, anybody that you pick up in free agency, you are more or less overpaying for, unless they're on that second wave or third wave of free agency that usually happens after that initial splash signings. And especially now, if you're talking about a position of super importance, an edge rusher, a left tackle, a quarterback, or a shutdown corner, you're going to pay a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the reasons where the line is for me is knowing that they don't have to pay a quarterback an exorbitant amount of money right now, knowing that Will Levis is on a rookie contract. They're going to have to spend a little bit on a backup because I believe the other thing I gleaned out of that is you're talking about a backup quarterback that's a veteran, not necessarily Malik Willis in this equation. So that's a big part of it is knowing. And here's the other part. You're probably not going to pay $12 million to a running back again. So you can spread that money out in other places where you need it. I think where it gets interesting to me is refurbishing the trenches going inside to out, because there's not a lot of great left tackles out in this market because, let's face it, all the good ones are under contract. And I'm not slighting any of the guys that are available or potentially available, but I'd rather see them go tackle, and I think they will. I just don't know if it'll be at number 7 or not, but I think you can get a guy and develop him and get him on the cheap for 4 years or so to get this thing going. Like at 38 in round 2, maybe there's a trade back scenario where you can get that third rounder back and also maybe go tackle towards that 38 pick as a result of trading down. But it's just they have a chance, Kayla, to reset positional spending on this roster historically. Yeah. Because you don't have to have that 32% number taking up your cap, 32% of it by quarterback, which is usually the tipping point. So, I mean, we are still at no loss for interesting thoughts, storylines, developments. I mean, it started with Mike Vrabel's release, and here we've been ever since. It's just hang on and buckle up. It's going to be a crazy ride.
Yeah. And I think the interesting part of that, too, when Ren Carthon talks about being in the top 5 in cap space moving forward is I almost wonder if there is a veteran out there they decide they want to give $20 to $25 million a year for as an average. You could have that number be close to 30 against the cap now. Well, you do have Will Levis on a rookie contract, and then at the back end of that contract, a lot of that money in terms of the cap hit has been paid out, and you could have somebody on a $7 to $12 million cap hit later in that longer-term contract with the Titans when maybe you are coming up more on a Will Levis extension if the perfect scenario plays out.
No, Will, that's a valid point because if you can front load stuff where you're going to have to shift that money around positionally down the road, provided that Will Levis is your guy and he has done really good things, and you're going to have to back up 3 Brinks trucks to get it done. That's a great point because you can do that now and then have yourself in a better position to negotiate and get him in an extension if it warrants it.
And I'm curious, too, how players would view that, right? And Ramon obviously answered this as well, too, about how guys would value their money coming right away, right? Like, I imagine there's some players that do want the security of, hey, I want some guarantees on the end of this. That way you can't just get rid of me after 2 years of a 5-year contract. And I want some stability in knowing where I'm going to be. But I would imagine that getting more money like that at the beginning of a contract could be attractive to players as a tiebreaker if you're between the Titans and maybe somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, and then the fact of no state income tax, too, that plays a part in it. You
Right.
know, you save a little bit extra right there. Also, the idea is, for the most part, because there's no guaranteed contracts in NFL unless you put that into your deal, is to get as much as you possibly can up front. If I play well enough, then I'll get extended. And if they extend me, then it helps drop my cap down lower so I'm not a cap casualty at some point, too. There's a fine science to it. It can be overplayed sometimes, but the majority of the time, because football has 100% injury rate, says this: get as much as you possibly can up front, because you never know when that player is going to come to either put you to IR, then you're devalued if you can't get back, or the fact that, look, you might not actually fit that system. You're a great player, but we can't find out how to carve a niche for you as far as your role with our team. So it's a very fine line. The luxury that they have is they have a system in place, it seems like, as far as the front office now, without even having to name the names of who's doing these contracts, that they know what they want. They know how they're going to pay guys, and they know what the expectations are to continue to have a sustainable winning culture. And I thought that was something significant that Bryan Callahan said yesterday. It's not about trying to correct it and get it right now. This may take a couple years. Our object now and goals is to create a winning culture in Nashville, Tennessee, that we're constantly competing for a Super Bowl. And I think that's the realistic approach to this offseason. You can't, and I remember going to the corner store with $5 in my pockets. You know what I'm saying? Like, burning through my pockets to go get me a bag of chips, a soda, and a Snicker bar. You see what I'm saying?
There it is.
Like, we can't do all this. Let's save something for Friday so we got something for the weekend.
No, I got to get that slush puppy in
Yes.
an hour later. So
Yes.
I got to get it, fill up that brown paper bag. Let's go.
Let me get a canned soda instead of a
sir.
20 ounce.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
that's what they're saying. I took Rhett back right there.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what you want. You can't be foolish with it. The old saying is what? A fool and his money will soon depart. If you overspend, and we've seen teams do this, Jacksonville, for instance, and then they have to change head coaches again. You hit hot for 2 years, didn't even accomplish their goal of getting to a Super Bowl. And here they are in the hard reset with a new coach and all this types of thing. That's essentially what you want to avoid. That's my spiel.
That's fair.
That's his TED Talk. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for
Sorry,
brushing
I'm
off that
not-
soapbox and standing on it
good.
for us, Ramon.
I'm
Ball
passionate
talk is good.
about this stuff, man.
Sure you are.
I love
You've
it.
lived it, man. Come on.
Yes, and winning is cool. Like, winning
There's nothing
is
else like it.
I swear,
Right?
you'll take less money if you know you got an opportunity to be in the show. You know what I'm saying? You can collect a bag and be miserable, and then you get cut and have to go to another team, and it sucks, man.
And this is exactly where we're talking about Derrick Henry.
Exactly.
Derrick Henry has that chance right now.
Rhett, you just dropped a bomb. You please elaborate a little bit more if you want to.
Well,
Rhett.
it's just, you start to see reports. I saw a report about an hour ago says that Miami Dolphins may be a
Yeah.
destination. I still say Baltimore Ravens is the spot. That's the closest you're gonna get to a ring. Think about the way Lamar Jackson played the quarterback position in
man.
2023.
Yeah.
Todd Monken
Yeah.
elevated all of that. Greg Roman, it was stagnant. You could figure it out. And I think a big back like him is a piece that could be the tipping point. I really do.
So instead of chasing that 10 a year or 8+, whatever his number is going to be, he might feel better taking a 4 and getting the off.
And how about at 200 to 250 carries instead of 300 plus? How about that? That's a part of it too.
Yeah, it is, Rhett. It really is.
Because he's hit that 30 mark now.
Yeah.
30 years old and last month.
And he is the avatar.
Yeah.
He is, but
he is the cyborg.
You got to go with what history tells you sometimes.
That's right.
Rhett Bryan with us this morning here from Indianapolis on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Rhett, you have made me a Peyton Wilson fan. NC State linebacker who was talking to the media about an hour ago and talked about his state championship wrestling background and had the sentence, talent and speed can only take you so far. Football IQ separates guys. Said, if I get my hands on you, you are coming to the ground. Don't let me get a piece of cloth. That is a guy I've been very interested to watch this week. Rhett, I know you have had an eye on him. Who else are you paying attention to in the linebackers and defensive linemen making the rounds today?
And he's one that if the medical checks go good, he'll be early day 2. He won't be night 1, but he'll be early night 2. He'd be a second-round pick if he does test real well here, and certainly medically. I am interested to see a guy from Clemson who is another guy who is – there's a lot of these guys that have come over from West Africa and played soccer as kids and then learned to play football at a later age. Rukaroro from Clemson is a fascinating story. He is somebody I would look at. Dwayne Carter from Duke, who played every position on the D line. And, you might say he's undersized. I'm interested to see what his test numbers are. We've talked at length about Braden Fisk from Florida State. Another guy that I have my eye on is his former teammate from Western Michigan, Marshawn Nealon, who we saw at the Senior Bowl. The guy, I think he'll have arms, and I think they were over 83-inch wingspan that was measured at the Senior Bowl at this. There's a lot of good prospects here this week, Will. And listen, as we go deeper into the week, I'm always fascinated to see. I really honestly believe Jalen Wright has a chance to be fastest runner here. I really believe that. He and if he's not the tops, he's in the top 2 or 3.
Hey, Rhett, real quick on that, talking about running backs, because I know if Derrick Henry is not here next year, they alluded to the fact, too, Callahan and Rand, that it is a two-backs league, right? You want two guys kind of consistently rotating, or at least we've seen a lot of that. What do you feel like they do in the running back situation? Do they possibly draft a guy even in the later rounds because this is a deeper class? Or do you go get one in free agency? Or, what about Haskins? Is he back?
Well, and the Haskins part, I don't know about Hassan because he's obviously still, I think, on that commissioner's non-football list.
Yeah.
But in terms of the backs, now you're right that because of the devaluation of the position, there won't be a run on running backs until night 2. And when it starts, there's going to be a bunch of them that fly off the board. But, yes, you can get value in rounds 4, 5, 6 for something like that if you so desire. But the other part of it, Kayla, is now that you have money, you could throw a little in the pile. Look at the free agents.
Sure.
There was a list of them that said they were not going to have the franchise tag put on them, including a Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler. So, I mean, maybe if the price is right, you could get a veteran in there. But your point that's most valid is we're going away from, and have been for some time, the stud, bell cow, carry it 30 times back. It's running back by committee, which used to be a joke. You were laughed at if you did that not too many years ago. And that's the way it is now.
He is Rhett Bryan at Titans Radio, taking time out of his very busy schedule at the NFL Combine at Indy to join us for his weekly segments. Rhett, thank you as always. Enjoy it and have a shrimp cocktail for us.
I did last night already. Might have a second pass of that. We'll see. But yes, the cuisine has been very delicious. Hey, y'all have a great rest of your show, great rest of your week. Let's do some Wednesday motivation with Inky.
Yes, sir. Inky Johnson live for Midweek Motivation next.
It's Ramon Foster, Force of Carolina. I'm here to tell you guys, man, they want to focus on providing a prime service to their customer base, okay? What does prime mean, all right? It's this. When they show up to your home, they're going to have one of their team members is going to be properly trained and prepared to give you a service that will meet your expectations and exceed them, too. I'm just here to tell you, somebody that uses them, they do a really good job. No weeds, green grass. I'm talking about when my grass get cut, the stripes are prominent, and that's because the pre-emergence they put down, the weed killers that they put down, and just the overall service. If I see anything pop up in the yard, I'm here to tell you they're right over there. The best part about them, though, no contracts. Simply put, if you love their service, you stick with them. If you don't even have to tell them. You just call them, you know what, I'm done with you guys. Simply put, but I guarantee you this, you will not have to make that call. If you do need service before spring kicks off, Here's their number, 615-893-8455, or go to securelawn.com.
Wrapping up the show on RKW, brewed by 8th and Rose, Ramon, Kayla, and Will. As we get you on your way, Inky Johnson's going to join us in just a moment for some midweek motivation here on the program. Robert Walsh behind the glass, Ramon Foster at Indy, Kayla Anderson headed off for a few days. Enjoy your time off.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Soak up some sun for you guys.
Love it. Ramon, what's the weather like in Indy? I feel like it's always 40 and windy and cloudy there.
I meant to update you. Yeah.
There's Kirby, Alan Kirby for the Peanut Gallery.
Oh, my goodness.
No, he ain't lying.
Hang on, let's get our weather update from Kirby.
Go ahead, Kirby. Man, floor is yours, dog.
All right, guys, well, the high last night, or the high today for the date, what is today, the 28th?
The 28th.
Was at 2 minutes after midnight. It was 60 degrees.
Oh.
It is now, I don't know, the feels like is about 17 degrees.
Yeah.
We have 18-mile-an-hour
God.
winds with 40-mile-an-hour gusts.
Ah.
And I just walked out a few minutes ago during that last segment to check the weather and came right back in. It is cold.
That's Kirby, Alan Kirby.
Yeah.
Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
I've always wanted to say that.
Thank you, Kirby.
Yeah, I went outside just to get some air for a second, too, and I thought I was tripping. There's a street sign that was shaking back and forth. You know, one of those crosswalks, like standalones?
Yeah.
And now the gust that Kirby's talking about is real today.
It's interesting. I asked the question only to say the weather there is so gloomy and ugly all the time.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people Buck Rising comes from. This is why he is the way that he is and treats all of us the way that he treats us, is because he grew up in 30 degrees with 80-mile-per-hour winds. He had to beef up enough so he wouldn't blow away in the wind. Me in high school, I would have been gone with the wind, literally. Chick flick, as Michael Scott says. But this is why Buck hates all of us so much and refuses to give us any content from pulling the fire alarm at the Indiana basketball game last night until 10 o'clock. So.
He couldn't even appreciate the Indiana win, you know?
I know.
He could. I think a portion of it, too, is Buck going to save all content for the Buck Rising and
True.
Zika show. So we tried to steal some content from him. I ain't going to lie.
It's fine.
We did.
It's fair. I will be at Geodis Park tonight as Nashville SC takes on Mocha FC.
Nice.
They are heavily caffeinated. They've played Mocha twice and Red Bulls over the weekend. So they've had Mocha and a Red Bull. I may or may not have used that terrible joke on our NSC Spotlight show, which comes out today on Apple TV. But as long as Nashville does not lose by 4 goals, and as long as Nashville holds serve today with a 3-0 advantage on aggregate over Mocha FC, they would host Inter Miami and Lionel Messi in the next round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup next Thursday at Geodis Park for the first of a 2-leg aggregate series.
He'd come here again?
He would be here again. And Messi will not be here likely in the summer because when Nashville plays Miami this summer, it will be during Copa America, which is the North and South American Championship that will be played this summer during the MLS season. So this is your chance to see Lionel Messi, barring a wild miracle for Mocha FC tonight. Your chance to see Messi in Nashville is likely next Thursday. So there you go.
That's big time.
Let's
right
root
there.
for that.
So 8:15 tonight, kickoff. You can watch it on FS2. No radio broadcast again, as we are not broadcasting the CONCACAF Champions Cup games. So a reminder to the people that you will not hear any NSC on the zone tonight. However, you will hear Tennessee versus Auburn. So
I'm here for
Should
that.
be good.
Man.
I'm pumped.
Yeah,
Where are you
that's a
watching
big
it,
time game.
Moan?
I ain't even sure yet, man. I got a good friend of mine that wants to go to a cigar lounge tonight, so I'm gonna probably link up with him.
Oh, Slay's in
Nice.
town?
Nah, not this time, man. Not this time. He's actually in Charlotte.
I was going to say,
That's
Slay will
right.
be on your television sets tonight.
Doing the
So
network.
He will.
It's a good thing.
He will be.
Lovely.
Man. That's problematic. We're in the Midwest and SEC network. That just registered to me.
You'll be fine.
You'll
be able to
be
see
all
it.
right.
Ron Slay's everywhere, man.
Okay, all right.
Everywhere.
Just checking.
We go to the phones right now, and we are joined by our very good friend Inky Johnson as we wrap up our Wednesday morning, as we always do, with some midweek motivation. What's up, Inky? How are you?
What's going on, guys? Doing great. How are you all?
Great.
Good, Ink.
Good. World famous Inky Johnson, man. Throw that in there now from here on out.
Infamous. Yeah, but man, I'm gonna get into it, man. I got a quote card I want to start us out with, and it reads: "Every choice moves us closer to or further away from something. where your choices taking your life? What do your behaviors demonstrate that you are saying yes or no to in life? And so I was reading something in the Harvard Business Review, and it talked about this concept of post-traumatic growth. And it spoke about how naturally most people are resilient, right? They come in contact with adversity, come in contact with opposition, come in contact with challenges. Naturally, most people get over it, get through it, and get by it. So, but the challenge is when they get by it, over it, and through it, most people go back to the same behaviors, same habits. So post-traumatic growth is when a person gets through opposition, adversity, challenges, person get over it, person get around it, they come out way stronger, right? Psychologically and physically. They're not the same. They said, but the key is the things that they go through, they put a narrative to it. And it made me have thoughts about my own life and my own encounters with adversity and opposition. And when I went through one of the most challenging times in my life, when my arm got paralyzed, I used to say things such as, my arm and my hand is paralyzed, my heart isn't, right? My arm and my hand is paralyzed, my commitment level isn't, my dedication isn't, right? The real commitment, not the cheap stuff, not the stuff that's predicated upon external factors, if you give me what I want, but the commitment that says, can I stay true to what I said I would do long after the mood that I've set it in has left? I think the one thing that we all have in common as people, we all go through challenges, adversity, and opposition that elicits similar emotions. But when you go through the challenge, the adversity, and opposition, will you have post-traumatic growth, or will you go back to the same behaviors, same habits, and same environments that got you in the adversity and the opposition in the first place? Let's grow. Let's be great. Go impact. That's my time. God bless you. Thank you.